The story kicks off on a gloomy night in the woods, with a little blue lizard running completely spooked. The little creature picks up the pace over the rocks, trying to dodge an incoming threat. Right on his tail, a squad of armed orcs is running in pure panic, yelling about needing to save their brothers. Right then, a glowing arrow tears through the air super fast straight at the group. The magic strike lands a bullseye on the leg of one of the fleeing orcs. Unable to stay on his feet, he collapses screaming in agony, while his buddies try to help him out. Watching the whole thing from a distance, a majestic elf readies his bow and trash, talks the primitive nature of those creatures. He literally sees the orcs as pests ruining the forest and demands they just give up already. After that, a brutal clash kicks off, with the elf squad wiping out the green defenders without an ounce of mercy. Even fighting totally outgunned, an orc warrior charges in full of rage trying to get some payback. But the elf commander just casually sidesteps, acting like that defense attempt was an absolute joke. Prepping a heavy, hitting attack, the elf announces he's about to send the orc to join his fallen bros. Out of nowhere, a blinding green flash lights up the whole battlefield. A massive green dragon drops from the sky, blasting a destructive energy wave that totally sweeps the enemies off the map. When the beast lands, the surviving orcs cheer, super relieved that the sovereign of the forest has arrived. Flexing an oppressive aura, the green dragon steps up to the front lines to protect his followers. Despite looking absolutely terrifying, the monster coughs up energy, showing he's actually hurt, and tells his people to retreat deep into the dark forest right now. One orc hesitates, totally stressing over what's going to happen to their turf. The boss makes it crystal clear that they need to bounce from that area for now. But he makes sure to add that this beef is far from over. Flapping his massive wings, the beast makes a serious vow on his own name. As the deity pulling the strings in the swamps and forests, he locks in his promise. The majestic dragon lets out a roar and promises in front of everyone to carry the title of Green Dragon. Hyped up by this, the orcs get their courage back and declare they'll take everything back from those arrogant haters. The creature fiercely agrees, promising their payback will be ruthless. This whole scene unfold, the elf commander just laughs at such a dramatic promise for a totally irrelevant title. In a flash, the elf fires off a focused magic attack straight at the beast. But the forest guardian brushes the spell off, like it was absolutely nothing. From there, the invading squad's confidence just starts crumbling against that overwhelming power. Before the brawl can even restart, another crazy imposing figure slices through the sky at top speed. A gigantic golden dragon crashes into the green dragon with absolutely devastating force. Pinning his rival to the ground, the new beast mocks his enemy, calling him a bottom-tier creature. The orcs completely freak out when they realize the legendary golden pride just touched down right next to them. With zero chill, the newcomer crushes the forest boss against the rocky ground. Even totally beat up, the green dragon tries to make sense of it, asking why he's wrecking his turf like this. The golden entity just lets out a sarcastic laugh, treating his opponent like a ridiculous glitch in the system. Flexing his power like royalty, he claims to be the original entity of that universe. Right after, the monster takes flight, glowing with a divine light all over his body. Floating there, the glowing beast claims he has total control over literally everything that exists. He warns the elves that he'd never let his divine kingdom get swallowed up by some worthless darkness. Gathering a massive amount of light, he judges everyone below him as disgusting pests that need to be wiped out. Annoyed by all that ego, the green dragon tells his rival to shut his trap and drop the attitude. But the divine entity just mocks his resistance, thinking those were some top-tier final words. Showing no mercy, he chucks a gigantic energy ball straight at his victims. The blast hits the ground, wrecking the place in a blinding, devastating explosion of light. The green dragon falls into the abyss, taking a massive L, totally disappointed in his own lack of power against the rival. In his final moments, he really regrets not having the overpowered flames of the red dragon. He's also super salty about not having the blue dragon's tactical brain to flip the script. Wanting nothing more than a chance to get payback for his squad against that arrogant golden dude, his hidden energy starts gathering. Slipping through a crack in space and time, the ex-sovereign's essence takes the shape of a weird egg, which is now chilling in the hands of a human. A guy in military gear is staring at the item, super intrigued, right in the middle of a facility. He rolls the object around in his hands, totally hypnotized by the glowing symbols carved into it. Leaning down slowly, the guy decides to place the mystery object on the dirt floor. This whole scene is going down in a super tense military base in Asia, right in the middle of World War III. Inside a tent nearby, a little lizard is resting peacefully, staying warm under a heat lamp. Meanwhile, Sergeant Lee Jian is super focused on cleaning and checking the parts of his rifle. His focus breaks when a soldier rushes into the room calling for the unit commander. Wasting zero time, the MC grabs his weapon and jumps up in a hurry to handle the situation. He tells his buddy he's on it, gearing up in his battle suit crazy fast. Stepping out to the camp's defense line, he notices a bit of a ruckus going down outside. Walking up to the gathered crowd, Lee Jian immediately asks what's going on at the perimeter. One of the soldiers gives him the rundown, pointing to a little boy who came down from the mountain to their camp. The kid is waiting anxiously, hugging his little puppy super tight so it doesn't run off. The soldier explains the kid is starving to the max and wants to trade his puppy for some food. Putting on a super ice-cold vibe, the sergeant instantly orders them to send the kid packing back home. The vibe gets super tense right away because of the commander's harsh and totally unfeeling call. Refusing to argue about it, the MC turns around and starts walking away. Following orders, one of the guards grabs the kid by the arm pretty roughly. Totally terrified, the boy tries to struggle while his puppy barks like crazy. Watching this up close, a rookie soldier mutters about the boss having zero empathy. He guesses the sergeant lost his humanity and turned into a monster because of the war's horrors. But, right before they kick the kid out, Lee Jian reaches into the pouches of his gear. The kid stops struggling, completely shocked, when the masked soldier suddenly walks back up to him. Showing that his cold attitude was just an act, the sergeant hands over a bunch of canned food straight to the boy. Chilling out after seeing the kind gesture, the soldier admits the squad wouldn't even be breathing right now if they weren't led by a guy like him. Confused by the unexpected plot twist, the boy holds the food and the puppy, asking what the leader used to do before the conflict kicked off. The sergeant just shoots a glance over his shoulder, keeping up his silent, mysterious guy persona. The rest of the squad talks about how awesome their boss is while peacefully enjoying their grub. Suddenly, the chill vibe is totally ruined when an enemy aircraft reflects off someone's weapon, sparking a warning shout. Without missing a beat, the commander orders everyone to fall back to the defenses and prep the heavy artillery to fight back. A swarm of small ships rushes the military base, kicking up a massive dust cloud on the way. Jian sprints as fast as humanly possible straight to the front lines. One of his guys tries to yell for him through the total chaos of the surprise attack. But the MC just keeps pushing forward, clutching his rifle, with only one goal: protecting his squad. A massive impact hits super close to the guy, launching dirt and metal scraps everywhere. In the middle of the crazy mess, a rookie soldier takes cover, screaming that it's way too risky for anyone out there. Pinned down by the endless enemy fire, someone desperately begs the sergeant to fall back right now. Ignoring the warning completely, he dives over a buddy to shield him, while accurately returning fire at the targets in the sky. The pinpoint shot nails the enemy ship, making an explosive drop from the busted machine. In that intense split second, a flashback hits, showing that before the war started, he just worked at a local pet shop. In his chill memories, his absolute passion was feeding little reptiles with tons of care and love. The dude thought pretty much any little critter was the coolest thing ever. Hanging out and taking care of those unique animals was what gave him the most genuine happiness. Snapping back to the brutal battlefield, he carries a wounded squad mate on his shoulders, thinking he couldn't care less about being respected in this absolute nightmare. All the military clout and medals from the higher-ups mean literally zero to him. Ripping his helmet off, pushed to the absolute limit by this awful lifestyle, the soldier admits what he really wants. Seeing that kid made him realize his true dream was just to have a normal, stress-free life. As the fatal bomb drops right toward him, the guy reaches his hand out, just wishing he could spend his life taking care of those animals. Even though a lot of people thought those pets were useless, those little guys were what gave his life meaning. Staring his end right in the face, his survival instinct kicks into overdrive, making it super clear that he really wants to stick around. The glow of a weird green item completely fills his shocked eyes. Bracing for the absolute worst, the guy curls up in the dirt, shielding the strange object with his own body. The sergeant breathes heavily and squints his eyes shut, waiting for a blast that never drops. Totally confused by the sudden peace and quiet, he stares out into nothing, realizing the explosive was a dud. Still sitting in the base's dirt and completely lost, he holds the glowing green egg in his hands, absolutely stunned. Out of nowhere, a loud voice booms from the object, claiming to be the deity that casts shadows over the entire forest. The invisible dude keeps flexing about being the boss who controls the fate of everything in the dark swamps. Throwing his divine title around, the entity demands the human soldier bow down and follow his orders right this second. A massive, terrifying green dragon energy pops up right behind the sergeant, telling the human to serve and take care of him. Freaked out by this crazy hallucination, the MC just loosens his grip. The magic egg slips out of the guy's hands and falls super slowly toward the dirt. The mystical object hits the ground with a hollow thud, rolling away with literally zero respect. From that sloppy landing, a tiny green dragon pops out, screaming in rage about the absolute disrespect of being treated like that right after picking his host. With absolutely zero patience for mind games, Lee Jian grabs his gun and aims it point blank at the weird little critter. The creature just laughs sarcastically, figuring the human is just as clueless as everyone else on this planet. Dripping with ego and arrogance, the little guy explains his current fun-size form is just the peak of endless life cycles. He keeps trashing the soldier, saying such glory probably just looks like a fairy tale to a violent guy with zero magic knowledge. As his only comeback, the sergeant cocks his weapon with a super intimidating click. Sweating bullets while staring down the barrel, the little monster instantly flips his attitude, trying to gas up his new ally called Bravery and Brains. Ignoring the ridiculous personality swap, the MC checks out the weird surroundings and asks where he just got teleported to. Going into full serious observer mode, the soldier asks if he actually ended up passing away during the base attack. Dropping his voice to sound spooky, the little lizard confirms things took that unfortunate turn. Actually stressed about his squad, the guy asks what went down with his team and the defenseless kid. The little beast gets super puffed up and annoyed, totally offended that his brand new servant is throwing away this epic second chance worrying about random NPC stuff. Taking advantage of the pause, the guy just grips his gun tighter, keeping his aim locked on the chatty reptile. Spotting the genuine threat, the tiny dragon backs up in panic again, admitting he has no clue what happened to the others. In his head, the creature realizes just how terrifying this basic human can actually be. The animal is shook that the soldier didn't even drop to his knees from his energy and just took over the chat without even flinching. Still not buying this messy story, the sergeant demands to know why he got summoned by a boss entity who apparently doesn't know anything. The magic creature confirms he really did pick the guy, but spills that it wasn't his own power that pulled off the interdimensional Uber ride. He thinks back super salty about the time he got absolutely clapped by the golden enemy's busted power back in the day. After that, his energy was just floating around aimlessly through the void of the afterlife. His consciousness was literally fading into that endless, boring nothingness for good. Right then, a weird notification suddenly woke him up, showing that someone was using cross-dimensional elements through a brand new system. At that exact moment, a screen popped up demanding he pick the ultimate caretaker, and he tapped it with his claw to lock in both their fates. The green lizard gets super hyped telling his side of the story, hyping the human soldier up as a hero meant for absolute greatness. He enthusiastically hypes up that the human is going to be the one to help him take back control of the forests. In the little guy's head, the hero has the cold, calculating brain of a top-tier genius. He packs the wild, ruthless vibe of a real warrior who literally never quits. Snapping back to reality, the monster figures his vibe check on this animal caretaker was absolutely flawless. Full of confidence, the tiny reptile whispers that he picked the absolute best duo partner to pull off his epic revenge. Totally ignoring the creature's massive power fantasy, Lee Jian pulls his smartphone out of his pocket and casually asks about this so-called system voice. A familiar notification chime rings from the soldier's phone, politely greeting the user. Staring at his phone's glowing screen, the guy quietly reads the tutorial steps to log into this new world's features. When he hears the robotic voice, the magic entity literally bursts into tears of joy, fanboying over the flawless divine power running the universe. Showing zero shock or annoyance at the dramatic display, the guy just keeps scrolling on his phone like it's a normal Tuesday. The lizard furiously guesses that the top-tier boss decided to step in because that arrogant golden enemy totally wrecked the server balance. A new prompt grabs both of their attention, telling the user to pick their starter race on the screen. The glowing panels show sick art highlighting human independence, dwarven crafting skills, and the supposed elegance of the elves. Disgusted by the magical menu options, the dragon tells the nobles to kick rocks, screaming that the only good elf is an eliminated elf. The little lizard keeps going on his angry rant, hyping up the green squad and claiming orcs are the actual MVPs of warfare. The sergeant looks at his phone screen and asks why he should pick that specific race anyway. Cutting right to the chase, the AI officially locks in the orc race selection. The guy lets out a confused grunt and stares at his tiny sidekick, not totally processing what just went down. The system announces that the bonus points from picking an uncivilized race got converted into stats, massively buffing his charisma and leadership. Right then, a magic glowing circle pops up under the soldier while the app says the tamer title is unlocked and fast travel is loading. The guy is completely lost, asking what the heck these random taming stats even mean. An absolutely massive, terrifying aura of the former forest boss erupts right behind the soldier. The magic being announces that the golden era is getting cancelled so the Green Dawn can finally make its comeback. The fantasy entity hypes up the otherworldly warrior to go head-to-head with their rival's massive ego. Begging for a hard carry, the dragon demands the sergeant respawn him and build a ruthless new green army. Getting sucked into the space rift, the human hears that this is his ultimate holy quest. But the creature quickly realizes the soldier literally couldn't care less about his epic speech. The green egg is just floating there all by itself in the middle of that magic beam. Right after, a massive pillar of energy fires off and the teleportation kicks into overdrive. Free, falling through the space between dimensions, the MC reaches out trying to grab the egg, doubling down on his dream to live a chill life taking care of pets. He complains that this was his one final wish before the system rudely crashed the party. Super annoyed with how this is playing out, the guy realizes the system totally botched his request. The stupid bug completely ignored where and what kind of animals he actually wanted to raise in his peaceful new life. Waking up in a damp spot, the soldier wonders if this place is the underworld. He feels himself sinking into a creepy dark puddle while his combat gear just slips right out of his hands. A pop-up says a slime has been tamed and is mutating after snacking on an item from another universe. The sergeant stretches his fingers, noticing something warm and squishy wrapping around his body. The jelly creature's mutation finishes up flawlessly after munching on the heavy artillery. The weird little guy levels up hard specifically because he swallowed the combat gear. Choking inside the bizarre goo, the guy starts panicking because he can't catch a single breath of air. Suddenly, he pops out coughing and gasping for air in the middle of a dark, moonlit forest. Still catching his breath on the dirt, the military guy realizes he's holding a round, colorful little creature. The little guy makes a cute noise, staring up at its new master with giant eyes. The chill vibe gets completely shattered by a high-pitched scream of agony coming from super close by. The soldier looks down at his own hands, totally confused by the weird, slimy texture he just felt. Absolutely shook, he realizes his physical body got a massive update. Standing up, the guy notices his features are sharp and his skin is straight up blue, having zero clue what just happened to him. Panic sets in as he tries to process the crazy glitch that completely overhauled his avatar. The jelly creature happily bounces right next to him, giving the soldier a massive jump scare. Running on pure combat instincts, he quickly reaches for his waist looking for his sidearm. But his panic spikes when he realizes all his military weapons have despawned. On the ground, the adorable little pet is casually chewing on something dark and fuzzy. The creature makes a funny noise and spits out literally just one of the soldier's combat gloves. The guy fearfully connects the dots that the blob ate his gear and flags the pet as a straight-up threat. Sweating cold, he decides to use the cloth to distract the critter to his advantage. But while trying to book it out of there, he accidentally punts the magic egg that was chilling on the ground. Without second guessing, he ducks down and scoops up the magic item super carefully. The little monster spots his master's slick move and makes a curious sound. Holding the precious loot, the MC makes a run for it through the woods while the jelly happily bounces after him. The main character sprints through the dense forest with everything he's got, just trying to catch his breath. Out of nowhere, a fast flash cuts through the dark woods, triggering his danger sense. A projectile whizzes right past his face, putting him on high alert from the sneak attack. Before he can even react, a green dude jumps out yelling at him to freeze. The tiny attacker raises a sharp knife and charges aggro straight at his target. The soldier's eyes go wide in panic, knowing he doesn't have time to dodge the blitz. Right then, the slime bravely jumps in front of its master to tank the hit. The little jelly smacks into the soldier's chest and starts glowing crazy bright, triggering a transformation. The enemy's knife strike clanks hard against a brand new energy shield. The attacker completely fails to break the tactical guard the little pet spawned on the hero's chest. Using the invincible block, the guy channels strength into his hand while the monster rapidly shifts. The UI chimes that the skill is complete, spawning a flawless, shiny piece of heavy artillery. With his senses dialed to 11, he aims the gun and flexes his brand new firepower. The barrel of the gun is pointed ruthlessly right at the attacker's face. With a massive bang, he pulls the trigger and deletes the threat with pinpoint accuracy. The other camouflage green attackers see their boy go down and totally lose their minds in panic. In a basic house, an old farmer gets startled by the gunshot echoing from outside. Up in the night sky, a huge green shadow slices through the air, scaring all the birds away. A mysterious female fighter picks up the combat noises using her surgically enhanced long ears. Moving super fast, the hooded girl flips smoothly down to the dirt, ready to investigate the drama. Hiding in the shadows, she scans the area like a total pro. The girl shows off her slick moves, drawing her sword, totally prepped for whatever aggro comes her way. Morning light creeps into a lonely cave while some weird noises echo from outside. Two green hostages are whining in pure terror, tied upside down by heavy-duty ropes. Stuck in that messy spot, the two wild guys keep crying and begging for an assist. Skin Sergeant just casually tells the hostages to shut their traps, not caring at all. He warns them he's not in the mood for a chat and asks who gave them permission to make that much noise. The little guys instantly shrink back in fear, completely overpowered by the military guy's boss aura. With the vibe chilled out, the guy sits by the campfire to organize his base and jeer. Right next to him, the little jelly creature bounces happily, hyped about the sunrise. Chilling in the dark spots, the sergeant scans the area trying to figure out his next play. Suddenly, a freaky noise shatters the night's quiet and grabs his attention. The little jelly jumps hard onto the soldier, clinging to his shoulder to ping him about the incoming danger. A blazing fast, violent strike slices through the air right out of the shadows. Spawning out of thin air, a green attacker tries to pull a dirty sneak attack on the hero with a blade. But the jelly sidekick flashes a bright light, instantly shielding its master. The smart system drops a notification that the pet is flawlessly transforming into a tactical weapon. Staring down the barrel of the gun, the attacker realizes he made a massive oopsie and freezes in absolute terror. Reacting fast, the MC pops his skill, locking his aim completely on the target. Full of confidence, the military guy preps the weapon with a slick 3-step motion. Right then, a heavy shot rips through the zone, leaving behind a crazy cool red trail. The bullet nails the attacker dead on, sending him flying back with a scream of pain. Holding his solid stance, the guy stays on high alert, just in case more enemies spawn in the woods. Hiding in the bushes, the rest of the green monsters watch their buddy get folded and are completely shook. Terrified of the soldier's busted stats, one of them turns around and straight up books it. Trying not to get wiped, the little monster trips into the bushes during his escape attempt. But the hero closes the gap in a flash and drops a heavy hit to finish the fight. Looking at the downed mobs, the guy keeps his weapon raised to keep the zone secure. He's breathing super heavy, trying to shake off the adrenaline from that ambush. At that exact second, the gun starts losing its shape in a seriously weird way. Totally melting in his hands, the weapon morphs right back into its base slime form. As the sun comes up, Legion takes notes on some paper, breaking down the creature's super chill personality. The sergeant figures out the pet can mimic gear until its stamina bar is completely empty. He also realizes the attack damage doesn't actually end anyone, heavily nerfing its real-world power. Basically only good for a few shots, exactly like what happened with the duo of hostages tied up over there. Sitting on a rock with his smartphone, the MC tries to pull up the AI assistant. The guy asks for his exact GPS coords and what he needs to do to avoid biting the dust out in these rocks. But the app just pops a message on the screen saying it can't find a good answer in its database. Annoyed by the glitch, he sighs heavily, realizing even the basic features are totally bricked. The chill morning gets interrupted when the little jelly accidentally bumps into the mystic egg. Staring at the green shell, the hero gets a flashback of all the crazy stuff he's been through so far. The memory of the legendary monster begging for a respawn, and an army totally takes over his brain. He realizes he basically got drafted as a mercenary to help this weird entity clear its quests. Shifting his focus back to the tied-up captives, the military guy decides it's time to make a move. Confused by these mobs, he straight up asks if there's some kind of dangerous alien threat. The little guys just shiver in pure fear, freaked out hearing him speak the local dialect. Losing his chill immediately, the guy walks up to them demanding they start talking. He figures out the language barrier is completely bricking any chance of talking to the locals. Watching the slime bounce next to the egg, he guesses that hatching the thing is probably the only strat that makes sense. But for that play to work, the sergeant knows his main quest right now is literally just staying alive. Siding with his logic, the UI confirms the top priority is finding a base camp. Listing 0 time, the system locks in that the search needs to start ASAP with 0 distractions. Super close by, the little green dudes are crying and stressing out while grinding through their punishment. Their stop digging into the dirt with their bare hands, throwing mud everywhere. Watching them do the grunt work, Legion brainstorms what the biggest threat in the zone might be. Smashing the dirt hard with a rock, the hostages finally finish digging the massive pit. The soldier checks out the random snacks and basic blankets the attackers dropped as loot. He reaches out to his jelly, guessing those invaders were just scouts who wandered too far from their squad. On command, the jelly alley flawlessly morphs into the military firearm. The guy knows more enemies could spawn at any second, so he needs intel right now. Walking up to the 2 terrified mobs, he decides to try communicating with some doodles. Grabbing a little stick, the military guy sketches a basic stickman in the dirt and points to it. In a super rough way, he signals to the monsters that the drawing is supposed to be his avatar in the story. Right after that, he points straight at the 2 smaller doodles next to it. Staring down the captives, the hero makes it super obvious that those drawings are them. Finishing his quick dirt sketch, he rapidly draws a couple of basic houses. The soldier asks straight up where their squad's main hub is located. The 2 just look at each other, totally clueless and terrified, having 0 idea how to reply. One of them hits peak panic and starts stuttering like crazy, just pointing at random air. The second captive also loses it from the stress, screaming non-stop in his own language. The little guy flinches back in horror when he sees the gun barrel aimed right at his face. Going full tough guy mode, the dude grabs the critter's attention to drop an ultimatum. He stares the locals down super cold, promising they'll get a hardcore ban if they don't follow the rules. Tapping the drawing again, the MC warns them the gun is gonna go off if they keep playing dumb. As a fatal consequence, he warns they'll end up getting tossed straight into those fresh holes they just dug. Realizing they're one step away from a game over, the little beast instantly throws his hand up pointing at the mountain. The sergeant memorizes the route, realizing the enemy base is way further out than he guessed. Pumped that he got the intel, he strolls casually back to his gear. Hiding in the bushes, a mystery girl watches the whole play go down super closely. Not noticing the spy, the MC tosses 2 pieces of beef jerky as a reward. The hostages scarf down the loot like they're starving, practically inhaling the snacks. Out of nowhere, the dudes get totally spooked when they feel a crazy shift in their stats rushing through their bodies. The hero jumps back when he sees a magic aura wrap around the 2 of them instantly. The mystic glow lights up the whole camp, radiating crazy energy right next to his inventory. The UI pops up on his glowing screen saying the snack, just power, leveled the duo of fighters instantly. The magic flash confirms that the 2 Panja tribe brawlers just got officially tamed by the AI system. Absolutely mind blown by the surprise notification, the sergeant realizes he just downloaded the basic demonic language pack. Hiding in the nearby bushes, the hooded elf is completely shook watching this bizarre scene unfold. Without hesitating, the spy turns around and books it super fast through the dark woods. Using her telepathy spell, Celia drops an emergency call, feeding the sitrep straight to her faction's higher-ups. The elf spiritual leaders pick up the call instantly and order the fighter to drop the heavy intel. Bowing out of respect, she drops her live location on the edge of the dark woods near the human zones. Sounding super stressed, the girl admits she spotted a totally unique orc roaming the map. The soldier is just standing frozen in his base, studying how his new green teammates are acting. Continuing her report, the elf tells the bosses that the blue-skinned dude is flawlessly spamming the nature dragon's ultimate magic. Hearing this massive leak, the grand spiritual guides hit her with dead silence and some serious side-eye. Feeling the awkward vibe, the spy keeps her head down, just waiting patiently for her bosses to reply. Breaking the heavy silence, one of the VIPs says the girl's name sounding totally unconvinced. The spiritual boss sarcastically asks how old the fighter is to literally forget how to use her own gear. Super confused by the random troll question, Celia says she's already over 150 years old. The master lets out a slow sigh, showing massive disappointment in the young warrior's report. He complains super bitterly that back in the day, the guild never had such rebellious newbies making up fake lore. The elf is totally lost as to why her own bosses are flaming her so hard. Right then, the Supreme Commander Kallian physically walks in front of the magic hologram, crashing the chat. The epic long-haired boss steps up to the spirits, demanding to know why they pinged him. Having zero time for nonsense, the master aggressively roasts Kallian for doing a trash job managing his squad. The entity mocks the whole drama, asking if it even makes sense for some random mob orcs to spam the Forest King's ancient magic. Tossing the annoying problem to the commander to deal with, the group cuts the magic call and dips into the void. Kallian rubs his temples looking completely done with this, and calls the bowing warrior over using a much chiller tone. He crouches down to her level, admitting he totally gets why she's thirsty for payback after that nasty critical hit that wrecked her arm. But the boss shuts it down hard, reminding her that the former Green Dragon got deleted from the server without a single trace. Bringing up the brutal wipe by the original Golden Entity, he declares that spreading rumors about the enemy's respawn is basically a bannable offense. Stressed that they think she's capping, the girl tries to defend herself, swearing she saw the green magic with her own eyes. Ignoring her pleas, Kallian turns his back, super annoyed that she had the nerve to bypass him and feed such fake news straight to the top admins. Going full strict mode, the commander officially closes the ticket and tells the elf to leave the chat. Swallowing her pride and getting her feelings hurt, Celia takes the order while absolutely raging on the inside. Completely salty about getting clowned for no reason, she punches the dirt to vent all her pent-up rage. The girl starts trash-talking the admins, calling them all blind boomers for ignoring a massive red flag for their society. She bitterly wraps up her rant saying her intel has zero value now just because she can't play the archer class anymore. Fueled by pure spite, the spy swears she'll solo that sketchy threat and drag the actual loot-proof right to the admins' faces. With her predator instincts dialed in, the warrior promises to delete any trace of the nature dragon that crosses her path. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle dinosaur, a looking beast aggressively jumps a massive bird right in front of everyone. A second later, the wild beast books it out of there, making a huge racket crashing through the thick bushes. One of the little green dudes points excitedly, explaining to the MC that the runaway beast drops some top-tier meat. The wildlife battle royal keeps going as a giant crab slides in, dragging its rocky shell across the dirt. The minion side eyes the new creepy crawler with disgust, warning the guy that this specific mob tastes like absolute garbage. The chill vibe is super brief until a gigantic spiky monster lets out an ear-piercing roar in the zone. Shaking with pure terror, the local mob warns him that boss is way over their level cap. The hostages sadly vent about how they totally bombed their tribe's coming of age quest because they only managed to farm animal crap. Hearing their tragic backstory, the military guy realizes the two harmless dudes got heartlessly kicked out of their own server. Even though their squad dumped them, the two sidekicks celebrate, hyped that they at least unlocked their true boss. The MC tries to break the awkward clinginess, claiming he's not in charge of anyone while trying to peel them off his legs. The guys stubbornly ignore the rejection, swearing he's part of the same demonic faction as them. Trying to prove this ridiculous theory, the creature literally holds his green arm right next to the sergeant's blue skin. Having zero patience for this needy, twisted logic, the guy yanks his leg away from the weird physical contact. But the hostages are obsessed, arguing there's no skin color drama here, since they're all spawned from the exact same forest. The conversation officially dies while the campfire blazes, warming up the spawn point under the glow of the full moon. Dead in the middle of the quiet night, the soldier pulls solo guard duty by the fire while his new squad mates peacefully snore in the dirt. Thinking back on the insane risks of the day, he remembers how hyper-aggressive the wild mobs were fighting for territory. The freaky memory of the giant walking crustacean totally convinces him that aggro is literally everywhere in this zone. Chilling on a rock a bit away, the military guy pets the little jelly while giving up on trying to catch a signal on his smashed smartphone. He admits to himself that if this happened back in the day, he'd be absolutely hyped to vlog these weird animals. Watching the little harmless dudes sleeping in a pile, he gets a super weird heavy feeling in his chest about all these crazy plot twists. A look of genuine sadness takes over his face as he remembers the real reason he turned into such an emotionless dude. The mental debuffs from the wars totally rewired the young guy's brain, forcing him to live his life constantly on edge with zero chill. The flames of the makeshift fire keep dancing and cracking super fast, lighting up a chunk of their night camp. Suddenly, the chill vibe of the fire glitches out, triggering a horrible flashback of a massive inferno wrecking everything. The nightmare replays the exact second the animal rescue center he worked at got tagged by enemy bombs and collapsed. Right in the middle of the absolute wreckage and metal beams, a crate of vital supplies slowly melts, swallowed by the insane heat. Completely shocked by the unstoppable disaster, the MC's past self screams in pure agony watching his peaceful routine turn to ash. The fire ruthlessly levels the place, while the animals locked in their cages cry out in pain with nowhere to run. Absolutely crushed and unable to do anything against the war, he just reaches out, crying over the loss of the only things he actually cared about. Brutally snapping him out of the trauma loop, the sound of a branch snapping near the camp shatters the quiet night. Running on pure survival instincts, the military guy goes into absolute try-hard mode, flipping his mood instantly to prep for a fight. Sensing the incoming aggro, the Jelly Alley wakes up with a crazy fast jump, landing right in the safe hands of its master. Morphing into a weapon in the blink of an eye, the soldier aims the loaded gun into the dark, demanding the attackers show themselves. Popping out of the thick bushes, two human guards get a massive jump scare when they bump into what looks like a monster aiming right at them. The vibe in the rushed camp gets so intense you could cut it with a knife, while the trio stares each other down next to the fire. Checking out their gear and faces, the MC gets a split-second sigh of relief realizing they're also human players. But any hope of a chill chat vanishes instantly when the guards draw their blades, screaming aggressive threats in some totally alien language. Trying to de-escalate the drama, the sergeant takes a step back, asking the guards to just chill for a sec. But his two green sidekicks jump in front of him, absolutely raging at the disrespect. Rushing in to protect their boss, they charge the guards while the young guy yells in a panic for them to cancel the attack. Right then, a sudden flash of light drops from the sky, lighting up the forest floor. The elf fighter spawns in, slicing through the wind with some seriously insane agility. Sticking a flawless superhero landing right in the middle of the brawl, she puts herself between the little allies and the guys. Moving super fast, the girl spins and throws a kick loaded with heavy mystic power. The lightning-fast move sends a wave of busted energy straight at the tiny green defenders. The strike hits the green mobs dead-on with absolute wrecking ball force. The impact yeets both of them way back while the girl smoothly resets her fighting stance. The hero's eyes go wide, completely shook seeing his squad mates get launched like that. Right behind her, the guards are just standing there frozen, staring at the person who just saved their run. Glaring at the enemy, she calls the orc the leftover trash of the nature dragon and demands he memorize her gamer tag before she ends his run. Walking out of the dark with absolute confidence, the hooded warrior proudly flexes who she is. She officially introduces herself as the Luminous Fang, dropping her name with zero chill. The elf points her sword, basically guaranteeing a game over for that fake evil wizard and his goons, swearing on her golden goddess that she's gonna wipe their accounts from the server. Keeping up her intimidating pose, the girl drops her epic title one more time, just to make sure the boss gets the memo. The soldier is just watching this whole over, the top theatrical cutscene while shielding his downed sidekick. All while the fighter vows to permanently ban the evil presence from the forest. But the blue dude is just standing there not understanding a single word of the lore drop. To his ears, the spy and the guards yelling just sounds like a bunch of random, glitched out noise. Trying to resolve things without catching a ban, he throws his hands up, promising he doesn't want beef, and just wants to talk it out. But the guards read his chill vibe as just the normal behavior of a brainless mom. The elf drops into a combat stance, telling the guards to back up, because she thinks the monster is about to pop a mind control spell. Realizing the miscommunication is spiraling, the soldier sees the enemy rushing him with her sword. Zero options to talk, he decides to fire a warning shot to scare the girl off as a last-ditch play. Crazy fast reflexes, the military guy readies his weapon, aiming straight up. But the sound of the trigger clicking on empty sends a horrible chill right down the MC's spine. He finds out the hard way that his jelly sidekick stamina bar hit absolute zero. The tactical pistol literally melts in his hands, turning back into just a super exhausted blob of jelly. Seizing the opening, the warrior coldly announces that the enemy's magic ends right there. With a massive jump, she dashes through the air ready to secure the final kill. The girl drops down hard, swinging her glowing blade in a ruthless straight attack. Suddenly, the little green sidekick heroically throws himself right in front of the strike to save his boss. The two guards watch the whole thing totally stunned by the mob's crazy loyalty. The heavy slash lands dead on the sidekick's arm, dropping a massive critical hit. The little guy screams in pain, hitting the dirt from the heavy impact. Totally panicking, the sergeant crouches over to shield his green bro from the threat. Even the elf freezes for a split second, shocked that she accidentally tagged the wrong target. Seeing his squad mate messed up like that, the hero's blood boils into absolute rage. Running on pure survival instinct, he pivots and throws a ridiculously heavy punch straight at the girl. The punch tears through the air with insane power, while the spy frantically tries to dodge. Totally freaked out by the sudden stat boost, she barely manages to dodge the heavy hit. Not giving her a second to breathe, the sergeant throws the useless gun barrel straight at the girl's face just to spook her. Forced into a corner by the aggro play, the girl does a quick backflip trying to create some distance. She hits the ground sliding through the grass while trying to get her balance back. Coughing a bit from the shockwave, the spy grumbles, super annoyed by the enemy's guts. Feeling her ego take a hit, she totally loses it, screaming that she's gonna pop her ultimate against this low-tier mob. Channeling an insane amount of mana, the warrior summons the wind spirits to buff her defense, demanding the mystic energy fry her enemies while the soldier watches her glowing aura scale up. Right then, blood starts dripping heavy from the hero's hand straight onto the dark dirt. Crouched on the ground, he breathes through the pain while his little ally calls out to him, super stressed. The guy looks at his own arm, completely frustrated by how hard his current body is nerfed. Shaking like crazy, he realizes his muscles totally locked up and his hand is literally lagging. Seeing how bad the run is going, the injured little monster desperately begs his master to log out and run away as fast as he can. Proving he's a real one, the tiny dude says he'll try to buy some time by tanking the magic attack. But the hooded girl is already dashing like a flash of lightning through the dark woods. The sergeant turns his head in shock, realizing there's literally zero time to counter. The warrior closes the gap with unreal speed, leaving the guy stunned by how fast her build is. Grabbing the magic item with everything he's got, he wonders if this is his final shot that's actually going to do something. Gritting his teeth, the military guy focuses 100% of his aim, so he doesn't miss the speedster. The elf runs circles around him, whipping up a mini tornado of dirt and wind that's super confusing. Refusing to get baited by the crazy speed hacks, the guy tracks her path, keeping his weapon locked. He spins his body fast, just waiting for the exact frame she commits to the final strike. Spawning right out of his blind spot, the girl lines up the finishing blow right next to the soldier. But the military guy pulls the trigger first, blasting a beam of energy in a moment of pure hype. The little green ally watches the risky parry, literally holding his breath from the stress. Right then, a piece of metal goes spinning through the sky and lands directly in the terrified sidekick's hands. The dude's eyes go wide in shock when he realizes he just caught the magic accessory right off the enemy's head. With her premium gear shattered by the sniper's shot, the girl instantly loses her balance and her buffs. Completely dizzy from the magic lag, she faceplants in the dirt, getting totally outplayed by the enemy's galaxy brain strat. Still holding his combat stance, the sergeant breathes a sigh of relief, hoping he finally wrapped up the boss fight. Totally burnt out, the jelly gun melts, slipping right through the guy's shaking fingers. The surgeon's stamina hits 0 and he drops to his knees while his little monster runs up in a panic. The green psychic rushes over, desperately trying to scoop up the pieces of his jelly bro off the ground. Hugging the melted creature in his hands, he bawls his eyes out, thinking his teammate just got permanently deleted. Completely drained, the soldier stares at his filthy hands, feeling the massive weight of that toxic encounter. This sudden loss of control triggers some super heavy PTSD of him holding a wounded squad mate back in the day. The brutal war memory procs a massive trauma debuff right in the soldier's head. The system immediately flashes a debuff warning, confirming that the war shock status is active. Unable to handle the mental damage, he lets out an ear-piercing scream, popping his special berserker mode. The military guy's face twists into some crazy beast mode as he completely loses connection to his sanity. Sensing the toxic aura leaking out, the two green buddies shrink back into the dirt, absolutely terrified. On the flip side, the guards are sprinting through the woods, trying to save their own skins. By pure aggro, the hero takes a heavy step, stomping forward. Glowing with a heavy red aura, he basically turns into a brainless killing machine. Walking blind, the soldier stops right in front of the knocked out fighter's body. With 0 hesitation, he winds up his massive monster hand, ready to drop a fatal hit on the girl. But a familiar, super faint noise goes off in the base, pausing the incoming game over. His rage-filled fist freezes mid-air the second the military guy hears that sound coming from below. Slowly but surely, his brain reconnects and the edgy aura fades right out of his eyes. Staring at the dark dirt, he spots a faint glow flashing super close to his terrified sidekick. The little slime didn't just dodge a game over. It's now flashing a bright yellow, pinging its master. Instantly, the other pieces of jelly that were dropped on the ground start moving all by themselves. The dropped phone flashes crazy bright as the UI flags a glitch in the taming process. The screen plays a chill memory of an older coworker telling him to live his life doing what he actually loves. Making that dream a reality, a brand new pointy critter spawns out of nowhere, full of energy. A pink shiny variant also drops in, proving that a unique passive skill is working. The UI shows that the starter pet used a cloning glitch to duplicate itself. Holding the brand new pets in his arms, the soldier is totally lost on how any of this actually worked. All that dark, edgy tension vanishes instantly, replaced by a super wholesome surprise with the colorful mobs. Time flies and the morning sun lights up the woods while the elf wakes up, realizing her HP is super low. The girl props herself up in the grass, trying to reboot her brain after blacking out in the middle of the raid. Super confused by the server lag, the girl looks around, wondering where she got teleported to. The terrifying flashback of that crazed boss wending up to finish her off hits her brain like a truck. Pure panic makes the spy's heart race as she remembers how close she was to getting wiped last night. With a quick jump, the girl gets on her feet locked in on finishing her quest no matter what. She reminds herself that she needs to drop the intel to her bosses about that fake shaman's dark magic. But when she touches her forehead, the warrior realizes her most OP item is missing. Massive panic sets in when she confirms her comms crown is totally gone. Without the epic gear, the young girl stresses out, realizing her whole network to her faction is completely bricked. For the first time in her over 100 years of playtime, the elf is totally solo and lost on the map. The memory of the sniper shot shattering her divine accessory hits her brain like a painful crit. The fear of the unknown totally hijacks the girl, making her back up in panic as she loses her balance. Dropping to her knees in the grass, she bawls her eyes out, begging the giant ancestral tree for a carry. Hugging herself, the fighter begs her clan leader not to leave her hanging like this. Her mental debuff makes her hallucinate a massive nature dragon, getting ready to swallow her whole. Hitting peak panic, the spy begs for literally any player with the stats to save her from this bad trip. Right at that exact second, some gentle hands catch her from behind, stopping her from face-planting into the dirt. Welcoming voice whispers to the girl, telling her to just drop all that anxiety. Looking up, the girl sees the shadow of a handsome dude promising that she's finally safe. Leaning the exhausted fighter against a tree, the illusion hands her a bowl of soup to clear her debuffs. Totally swept up by the random act of kindness, the spy agrees to drink the soup, feeling massively grateful to this guy. The wholesome physical contact gives her a cozy vibe she hasn't felt in her entire playthrough. While she's sipping the hot soup, the UI silently drops a notification that a taming attempt has started. Completely trusting him, she asks if her savior is some kind of angel, but the hologram starts glitching out. Snapping back to awful reality, the girl realizes the blue military dude is the one holding the bowl. Dropping the nice guy act, he casually says he can play the ally or the villain. It entirely depends on what she chooses to do. The sergeant hypes up his minions' old-school crafting skills, admitting that their nature potion actually slaps. Realizing she just swallowed some sketchy potion crafted by those gross mobs, she absolutely freezes. Hitting max disgust, the girl tosses the drink and aggressively spits it right in the hero's face. The sun is blazing in the sky now, lighting up the rocks of that totally unplayable zone. Currently tied up tight to a cot, the elf thrashes around, demanding they let her go right now. Flopping around awkwardly in the grass, the hostage swears she's gonna wipe all those brainless mobs off the server. Casually wiping the spit off his face, the guy warns the long-eared girl that she needs to fall in line if she wants to avoid a game over. The fighter tries to clap back with some heavy trash talk, but her mic gets instantly muted. A hidden admin command forces the girl's lips shut, totally freaking her out because she's getting hit with a submission spell. The military base goes totally dead silent, while the girl is forced by the system to stay on her knees. Hyped about the play, the green sidekick cheers, praising his boss's insanely high stats for breaking that snobby hostage. Totally clueless about the hype, the hero wonders how he even managed to pull off this apparent mind control. Trying to figure out the meta, he pulls his smartphone out of his pocket to check the latest push notifications. A quick flashback plays, showing the exact second he doubted the gross crafting mats his sidekicks used for that healing potion. Even though he was worried it would ruin the run, the guy let the makeshift medic's feed it to her to get her to respawn. The glowing screen confirms that trying to tame her with that sketchy potion had actually completely failed. Because the elf race has absolutely busted magic resist, the software had to bypass her brain and just hijack the girl's physical hardware. As a result, the screen confirms the physical hack was a success and unlocks her native language pack for the user. Looking at the system lore, the sergeant thinks about what this crazy skill actually meant back in his home server. Back in his human days, taking care of and training tiny exotic reptiles was just what regular humans called taming. Looking at the little monsters surrounding him, the MC finally realizes he just converted every mob in the zone into his newest pets. Flexing his brand new skill, the sergeant commands the tied-up prisoner to sit in the dirt. Right after, he orders the girl to stand back up. Testing the absolute control, the young guy demands the elf sit back down again. The girl whines angrily, trying to fight the debuff, until the soldier finally unmutes her mic. Totally losing her mind over the disrespect, the fighter screams that she'd rather take an L defending her faction and vows to wipe that filthy fake shaman. Having zero patience for the crying, the hero orders her to shut up, making the girl click her tongue in absolute disgust. While the hostage struggles in the dirt, the hero is mind blown that he actually managed to hack and take over her avatar's controls. He keeps wondering if this broken cheat code was just another random buff he got when he spawned into this crazy server. A quick memory pops up showing his human playthrough, remembering the second he blacked out in the middle of the raid, and even his old debuffs got cleansed. But the sergeant faintly remembers feeling an absolutely monstrous, raging aura basically taking the controller out of his hands. This dark vibe instantly triggers flashbacks to the absolute worst trauma he tanked in the war zones. Shrugging off the bad vibes, the guy zones back into reality, flashing an exhausted smile. He lets out a long sigh, noticing his avatar swaying a bit, and tries to convince himself this is all just max-level stress. Sitting down in the muddy dirt next to his newly unlocked squad, the military guy admits to himself he'd be totally capping if he said he wasn't completely lost. Holding his smartphone, he realizes a bunch of glitchy events are happening all at once, but he figures combat has always been like this, and his main quest is exactly the same. Staring at his device's screen with nostalgia, the military guy locks in his promise that he needs to stay in the game to finish his side quests. Driven by hardcore determination, he screams the word survival at the top of his lungs. Jumping to his feet, the leader summons his two green sidekicks, demanding they form up in line immediately. The soldier warns them with a dead serious face that he still can't entirely trust this do not to throw the game. The tiny mobs start sweating buckets when they hear that. In the sergeant's server, only busted stats and pure grind get you the pass to keep playing. As a deal, the sergeant promises to carry them through training so their defense stats go up and they don't get wiped, demanding they help him stay alive in this zone in return. The hardcore boot camp kicks off with push-ups in the dirt, where the boss makes it crystal clear that anyone who rage quits won't be logging back into their home base. The intense grind keeps going with late-night cardio runs through the woods, with the sergeant warning they still haven't earned the right to call him boss. In the middle of the combat drills, he uses the allies to block hits, wanting to see if their loyalty is only good for being meat shields. Pushing the locals to their absolute limit in physical sparing, the military guy tests the duo to see if they're actually cracked enough to be his main DPS. Watching the sergeant flawlessly parry attacks, the elf fighter literally can't take her eyes off the intense grind. The tied-up hostage finally admits to herself that she was totally wrong, realizing these guys aren't just your standard trash mobs. She is absolutely mind-blown watching the jelly sidekick seamlessly transform into an iron revolver. The girl also stares in shock as the two tiny fighters reload military gear and march in perfect sync. After the brutal boot camp, the mini-squad flexes a terrifying aura, totally geared up and ready to pop off under the sergeant's calls. Watching the blue commander's absolute boss energy, the spy thinks in awe about the insane level of control he has over the party. Completely shook by the setup, the girl admits she hasn't seen anything like this in her entire 150-year-long playthrough. Staring at one of the green fighters hitting bullseyes in the DIY shooting range, she confirms there's no way he's just some uncultured beast. The sergeant keeps running the duo's target practice with absolute zero chill and military precision. The non-lethal rounds absolutely laser the wooden dummies in the middle, breaking the setups with crazy skill. Facing this level of tactical coordination, the fighter thinks to herself that this fake shaman is a legit endgame threat. Staring at her busted divine accessory tossed in the dirt, the hostage decides she needs to ping the admins about this ASAP. Sneaking like a pro through the grass, the elf tries to grab the broken crown to reboot her Wi-Fi signal. But the sergeant's heavy hand clamps down hard on her shoulder, warning her with a dark look that it's time for her to join the lobby. Far from the forest, in a super chill village, two panicking dudes come running in, screaming about a terrifying boss mob. The young guy warns the locals that the monster spawned on the rock right behind the town, begging them to take the warning seriously. The old town elder walks up leaning on his cane, tiredly asking if they're back on their BS about green enemies again. Stressing over the lack of trust, the guard insists it was a cracked shaman with massive stats, swearing he literally saw the OP elf get totally clapped. Afraid of a server wipe, the local argues they need to ping the regional noble or at least party up to fight back. Crashing the panic party, a guy in a cape steps out of the shadows telling them to drop the fake news, asking if they seriously think mobs would cross the ocean. The cocky merc totally mocks the NPC's panic, asking why such evil bosses would even bother raiding such a trash-tier village. Suspicion takes over the main plaza while the locals argue about the supposedly hidden threat. Hiding in the bushes right above the town, the hero watches the cutscene and orders the elf to move up to the front. The girl tries to resist, making angry noises so he stops back, seat-gaming her, but the sergeant instantly cuts her off, demanding she mute herself. Pointing quietly at the crowd of NPCs down below, the hero tells the hostage to translate what the chat is arguing about. Disgusted by the toxic demand, the spy turns her face away, asking why she'd ever carry her enemy like that. Keeping a straight face, the MC holds up her broken accessory, reminding her that she called this thing a crown. The guy says that no matter what the item's lore is, it looks like premium loot, and promises he completely plans to trade it back. But he shows off the jelly creatures, warning her that the pets want some payback since she sliced them into 3 pieces during their last PvP match. Acting super casual, the soldier says he'll give the fighter a tiny window to think about the trade deal. The tension spikes when the commander coldly raises his fingers, starting a countdown from 3. Hearing the number 2, the girl panics, begging him to just wait a little longer. Threatening to eat the loot, the jelly sticks its tongue out while the MC calls out number 1 with a dead, serious face. Desperate to save her gear, the hostage bows her head, screaming that she accepts the deal, officially getting the green light to start the live translation. Glaring at the blue guy with pure toxicity, the girl calls him a demon, absolutely certain he's an evil, try-hard boss. Holding back tears, the elf swears in her head that as soon as she gets her long-range comms back, she'll make this guy feel the permanent aggro of her entire faction. Back to the village drama, the old boss repeats that the green raids might be standard across the ocean, but on this server, the worst they get is low-level mobs. Still trying to convince the town leader, the guard swears he used to think exactly like that until he saw the aggro up close. The guy keeps spamming that they can still put together a quick militia, catching the eye of the mercenary who sarcastically repeats the idea. The blonde guard fakes a sad face, asking if the NPCs have zero faith in the guild that guards the trade routes. Keeping up his arrogant vibe, the paid fighter repeats that the town is 100% protected by the road guards. The mercenary tries to spin the narrative, asking what's the point of handing weapons to random noobs, just to send them into an unwinnable raid. Losing all his patience, the local accuses the guards of being sketchy, calling the guild a bunch of leeches that rob everyone with their fast travel fees. The farmer tries to defend their massive grind of crafting textiles to stay alive, but gets violently interrupted. Raging out, the blonde guard lands a heavy critical hit right on the NPC's face, screaming for him to shut his mouth. Taking massive damage, the guy drops to the dirt groaning in pain, while the rest of the farmers anxiously beg them to stop the PvP. Grabbing the target by the collar super aggressively, the mercenary orders the guy to stay quiet and accept the town leader's final call. This whole toxic griefing is watched from a top-tier vantage point by the hero and his squad, who are still camping in the tall grass. The fighter shoots the soldier a dirty look, blaming him for this whole disaster, calling him totally heartless for letting good NPCs suffer. Completely ignoring the preachy rant, the commander points down at the village and coldly orders his minion to take a non-lethal shot. Down in the village, the blonde guard tells the NPC to shut it, acting super toxic. With zero chill, the merc drops a heavy hit straight to the villager's face. The crowd around them goes into absolute panic mode, while the raider grabs the downed victim by the shirt. Suddenly, a massive bang echoes through the sky, forcing the guy to drop the farmer and scream in terror that the boss mobs have finally spawned. Up on the hill, the green minion confirms the warning shot was a success, following the military guy's orders to abandon the zone ASAP. The hostage is totally lost when he suddenly calls for a tactical retreat. In a flash, one of the jelly sidekicks smoothly morphs into a fast yellow reptile mount. The tiny warrior takes off pumped up across the map, holding his weapon like a pro. Right behind him, the teammate moves with the exact same hype to follow the boss's strat. Hitting a flawless jump, the tiny soldier mounts the yellow beast. The second minion also hops onto his beast with crazy good movement tech. The duo speeds through the bushes riding the mounts spawned by the system. Going full try hard on the objective, one of the partners drops into a pro shooting stance while zooming past. The mount hits the gas, snapping its jaws in a terrifying way as it tears up the dirt. The beast looks sharp and locked in, proving it's the absolute best ride for a military jetaway. During the run, the green sidekick lands trick shots without even losing balance. The tiny warrior tracks the target non-stop, proving he totally downloaded the combat strats. The non-lethal rounds keep flying in perfect sync with the mount's movement. The two drive their beasts side by side, holding a flawless formation right in the middle of the jungle. Pulling a sick trick, one of the allies leaps off the beast, drawing his combat knife for a close-range takedown. The little guy shows off his entire skill tree, landing calculated hits during the combat drill. The knife cuts through the air like butter, proving the hero's hardcore boot camp was a massive win. The duo chains some crazy complex grabs and ground, and pound combos right in the dirt. Wrapping up the drill, the green minion steers the yellow beast, totally proud of how he styled on the targets. The ally flexes his strict stance and lethal mechanics that he just unlocked thanks to the hero's intense coaching. Watching this slick movement, the soldier gets flashbacks to how the endless war on his server completely wiped out the human player base. Back in that chaotic meta, every high-level coach had to hit the front lines just to carry the noobs. Top-tier players from every class teamed up with one goal, carrying the low-level grunts so they could extract safely to their bases. The MC remembers his own run in the faction, where everyone grinded their roles to literally just survive. Remembering his own exhausted face highlights the massive carry job he's currently pulling as the party leader. Snapping back to the present, Lee Jian realizes that for the squad to not get wiped, they gotta find a safe zone and some loot in a village. The sergeant patches up his ally's HP, totally sure that rushing in without pausing always leads to a tragic game over. While chilling at the base, the commander checks the squad's current DPS stats to prep for a random encounter. He's actually super pumped that his green warriors downloaded the military strats way faster than he thought. The cute jelly mobs also leveled up hard, unlocking the ability to hold multiple skins and drop top-tier weapons for the squad. The military guy leans on the modded reptile, realizing he's the absolute hard carry for this weird party. Tossing fresh meat to the beast, he confirms that the meta for taming mobs is strictly establishing dominance, and then dropping food buffs. The animal scarfs it all down fast, accepting the guy as the party leader with total loyalty and chill vibes. Hyped about the new unlock, the military guy names the fresh mount Kyu, officially locking in his combat stats. The squad pushes through the woods riding the reptiles, fully prepped to sweep side quests with ease. Even with the massive level ups, the sergeant stares at his bricked smartphone, super salty about losing a god-tier item. Not having a long-range comm system is the biggest nerf, keeping them from reaching max military potential. Deep in thought, he imagines the insane team plays they could pull off with a radio, until the prisoner breaks his focus. The girl rages out, saying she already dropped the translation and demands her premium loot back right now. The military guy grabs the busted yellow item, casually checking if this was the drop the girl was crying about. The fighter stares at the metal scrap, looking super stressed and basically panicking. Hiding her sweat, she tries to change the subject, asking why he's so obsessed with a random cosmetic item. The hero notices the pitch change in her voice and actually pays attention to what she's saying. Reading the enemy's playstyle, the elf thinks about what this supposed evil wizard is plotting. Celia realizes with 100% clarity that the hardcore bootcamp he ran for the mobs wasn't just random aggro. The spy's game sense peaks as she notices it was a highly coordinated, high-stakes military strat. Locked in on saving her server, she cements the idea that she has to report the entire meta to the light faction admins. Pulling her most toxic fake act, the hostage points at the crown, dropping a massive lie that it's a super precious item left by her despawned mom. Deep down, she's plotting to use the item's telepathy to summon a raid party and totally crack that blue guy's skull. An awkwardly heavy silence drops over the camp while the sergeant just stares at the prisoner without dropping a single word. Crushed by the heavy silence, the girl grits her teeth, salty that her bait totally failed on the enemy. The military guy gives zero cares about the dramatic acting and straight up asks if the gear does long-range telepathy. Spinning the broken metal piece in his hands, he asks if it actually works like a two-way radio. A flashing IQ smile, the military dude raises the shiny piece right to his own face. Giving the warrior a heart attack, he literally just slaps the broken crown right in the middle of his forehead. Terrified by the troll move, the girl throws her hands up screaming at him not to do it. A massive flashbang blinds everyone the second the item touches the MC's skin. Thanks to the invisible Wi-Fi, the avatar of a long-haired elf commander spawns in the mental lobby. Both male models are just standing back in this totally blank white void. The faction's supreme boss turns his head, noticing a massive lag spike in the connection. The hero rubs his chin, checking out the majestic boss in front of him without catching any fear debuffs. Super confused by the mute lobby, the elf boss grumbles that the server connection is bugging out. The superior's magic avatar just idles in the white space, waiting for the warrior to drop an official report. Losing his patience, the VIP pings the girl's name directly to get some kind of feedback. Snapping back to the real map, the hostage goes into total panic mode when the sergeant says he didn't see anything useful on the call. Taking the item off his face, he genuinely asks what was actually supposed to happen. Hyped by the weird toy, the little green mob jumps happily, begging to try on the shiny gear too. As soon as the tiny fighter hijacks the call, he spawns in the mental lobby right behind the long-haired elf and clears his throat to grab aggro. The leader gets a massive jump scare hearing the freaky voice inside his sacred private chat. Completely lost in the white void, the commander frantically looks for the hacker who breached his mind. The hostage screams in pure anxiety, begging them to be careful while the two little mobs brawl over who gets to wear the mystic gear. Celia keeps flaming the little guys as uncultured, but the warrior just laughs at her while holding the loot. Right then, the yellow minion stretches out and just straight up swallows the glowing crown whole. The shock is so massive that the two tiny fighters instantly stiffen up and fall over backwards. The jelly pet starts glowing crazy bright as it downloads the transmitter device's specs. The hero and his squad just stand there frozen in absolute silence, watching the glitchy update finish. Finishing the download, the pet morphs into a pointy shape with an antenna, dropping a magic dial-up sound. The elf fighter hits max panic, screaming that this has to be a glitch. Completely ignoring her mental breakdown, the mobs jump on the minion, hyping up the sick new skin. On the other side of the call, the elf boss is completely clueless about the absolute chaos happening. A massive, corrupted hologram of the yellow minion spawns right in front of the leader, giving him a huge fright. Running on pure defense instinct, the commander draws his twin glowing blades, locking in for the boss fight. Fast combo, he unleashes a heavy cross slash right at the freaky ghost. But the weird model just clips out of the lobby, vanishing like smoke before the hitbox even connects. Keeping his guard up, the majestic boss rages, wondering what kind of cursed mob just hacked his brain. Totally frustrated by the empty lobby, the boss demands to know what kind of troll strat his warrior has been pulling. The echoed audio of the boss calling her his daughter plays, while the spy drops into the dark dirt, crying from the ultimate humiliation. Holding the shape-shifted sidekick, the military guy watches the girl have a breakdown, not really sure how to handle the cutscene. Shaking with absolute rage, she whispers apologies to her boss, swearing she'll wipe that squad from the server. Popping off in pure rage, the hostage looks up and screams that she'll delete every single member without holding back. Not giving a single care about the dramatic temper tantrum, the sergeant turns his back, announcing they're going on a loot run. Walking chill through the forest, the commander locks his eyes on the jelly pet in his hands. The guy asks the pet straight up if it actually consumed the Mystic Comms gear. Hyped about the new tech tree, he asks if the creature can literally act as the squad's radio comms. The sergeant's brain goes into overdrive, theory crafting all the crazy tactical plays this buff unlocks. Testing the ping, one of the tiny fighters sticks a piece of the slime to his ear like a tactical earpiece. The hero backs up and starts counting through the mic, waiting for the teammate to echo back. With zero lag and perfect audio from the Green Warrior, the commander is absolutely hyped that the test was a massive win. Confirming the loadouts are completely sorted, he officially calls the start of the squad's next raid. The marked waypoint for the attack is exactly at the chill NPC village nearby. The sergeant orders the squad to hold the choke points and lock down a safe zone, telling everyone to push without stopping. Left solo in the rushed base, the elf lets out an exhausted sigh, tasting the salty flavor of a massive L. On her knees and still CC'd, she's super salty that the enemy looted the only comms gear she had. The girl's brain pictures those toxic mobs lining up military strats and riding super fast mounts. With terrified eyes, she realizes it's going to be an absolute server wipe if that squad rushes the defenseless town. Driven by the need to be the hero, the hostage pushes her avatar to the max, trying to break out of the hero's magic CC. Gritting her teeth, she figures this is the perfect window to break out since the blue player is out of render distance. Burning tons of stamina, the girl manages to plant her feet in the dirt. Breaking the movement block the hero cast. A spark of hope lights up her eyes when she realizes she finally got her controller back. Wasting no time, the spy starts awkwardly bunny, hopping through the grass to escape the zone. But her busted movement speed catches up to her, and she faceplants straight into the mud. Annoyed by her nerfed stats, the fighter curses the lag, admitting her movement is way too slow right now. Even knocked down, she refuses to hit the surrender button and claps her hands together to cast whatever mana she has left. The girl spams a call for help to the wind spirits, flexing her high rank in the divine faction. Answering the emergency sus, a soft mystic aura wraps around the downed girl's legs. Burning with aggro, the spy swears she's going to show that toxic boss the absolute limitless damage of her faction. Boosted by the wind buff, the tied-up girl launches like a rocket, tearing through the grass at insane speed. She drops a battle cry while zooming past the trees, totally fixated on saving the NPCs from the raid. Looking almost completely unhinged, the girl plans to hit the town and find a way to ping the Grand Society of Light. In her revenge fantasy, she promises the enemy is going to hit with the band hammer and turn to dust. Far from the woods, the full moon lights up the chill roofs of the human settlement. Right in the middle of town, the blonde warrior keeps griefing the NPC, totally trolling his story about an OP shaman. The merc drops a cruel laugh, acting like it's literally impossible for random mobs to cast lightning spells. The flexing his fake authority, the faction's leader claims that every road in the zone is 100% under his control. The mercenary boss spreads his arms in front of the bowing villagers, demanding they follow his orders blindly. Raising his voice, he accuses the NPCs of using fake mob lore just to find an excuse to start a riot. Trolling the entire lobby with pure toxicity, the guy brings up the blacksmith that the guild had already kidnapped before. Having absolutely zero chill for human lives, the dude orders his goons to wipe half the guys and sell the rest of the women and kids for gold. The whole zone is terrified as the mercs rush in, until the leader tells everyone to pause for a sec. The boss shifts his camera to the plaza entrance, spotting the tied-up hostage who just drifted into the zone. Totally out of stamina from the crazy dash, the warrior breathes super heavy, unable to even type in chat properly. Curious about the random spawn, the leader walks up to the hostage, asking what server she's from. Still trying to regen stamina, the girl ignores the troll and begs everyone to run away from the toxic players ASAP. The mercenary tells her to chill out, while he leans in to check out the girl's character model up close. Grabbing her face super aggressively, the commander gets totally hyped, confirming she's a legit elf drop. One of the bald goons awkwardly points out that the girl doesn't have the holy cosmetic item that the dragon fanboys usually rock. Using that excuse, the guy laughs at the girl, guessing she caught a faction ban for not having the premium gear. Staring deep into the spy's eyes, he calls her a total noob for ending up in the trash like this. Driven by pure toxic vibes, the guy grabs the girl by her tied-up clothes, announcing he's taking her as a super rare loot drop. The bald goon takes the hostage, mind blown by how light her character model actually is. Flexing his strength stats, the guy lifts the fighter with just one arm, promising she won't be a problem. Out of nowhere, everyone's camera snaps to a freaky, high-pitched noise tearing through the night breeze. Giving 0 frames to block a hyper-fast projectile headshots the goon instantly. The massive critical hit knocks the mercenary's character model backward, dropping him flat on the plaza floor. The leader totally freezes, completely shook as the explosion particles bounce right off his face. The metallic ping of an empty shell dropping on the stone breaks the heavy silence after the trick shot. Popping out from the bushes, the military guy slow walks toward the center of the village, weapon drawn. Stopping exactly behind the downed girl, the MC locks his crosshairs straight onto the terrified raiders. Holding an unbreakable stance, the sergeant loudly declares he spawned here to keep the girl's HP safe. The hostage snaps her head around, absolutely mind blown by the play from the guy she thought was the final boss. Dropping the fighter's gamer tag, the soldier announces he's here to take back his control over the girl and claim the whole village. Never taking his eyes off the aggro ahead, he confidently places his hand on the downed girl's shoulder. The spy's eyes go wide as she realizes this random physical contact feels ridiculously familiar. The flashback of the cozy illusion hits her brain, proving this feels exactly like the head pats from that nice hologram dude. Cutting her thoughts off, the military guy asks if she took any damage while maintaining the defensive line. Right then, he politely asks the girl to switch back to her translator role, and she hits accept immediately. With the voice chat secured, the commander points his gun at the sky, demanding to open the trade window with the raiders right now. The mercenary co-leader shakes like a leaf, fumbling over his keyboard trying to type, negotiation. The MC lowers his guard just a bit and asks if the dude needs a minute to process the offer. Aiming the barrel right at the villain's face, the sergeant starts a countdown, dropping the number 3. Tracking with aimbot-level precision, the sergeant keeps counting, dropping the number 2. Hiding in the grass, one of the tiny sidekicks cocks his gun and ends the countdown by yelling number 1. The second masked minion also lines up his shot, aiming right at the flesh and blood targets. Totally hijacked by fear of the invisible snipers, the co-leader turns around and sprints away in pure panic. The toxic boss pushes through his own squad, leaving his teammates to die just to save his own run. But the dude trips over his own laggy hitbox and faceplants in the dirt, having zero clue what's wrong with his avatar. A heavy combat boot violently stumps on his cape, completely bricking any chance of extraction. The paid fighter looks back with a face of pure terror, just waiting for the game over screen to drop. Raging at the scene, 2 goons pull their swords and rush in, flaming the supposed trash orc for spamming magic. The duo sprints at max speed right at the main character, ready to carry their squad's stat ratio. Spotting the aggro push, the military guy shoves the girl down, keeping her hitbox completely out of danger. Taking the window, he unleashes a rapid-fire burst straight at the enemies while strafing. The rubber bullets nail the attackers' hitboxes, dropping heavy stagger damage and instantly canceling their rush. Controlling the PvP zone, the soldier slams one of the guys into the ground and steps on his chest while still spamming the trigger. Using flawless combat mechanics, he disarms the second enemy and shoves his gun barrel right up close to cancel his attack animation. A goon tries to pull a dirty flank on the sergeant from behind, winding up a blade and screaming some toxic voice lines. Tier reaction time, the MC spins his character model, dodging the backstab on the exact final frame. He literally grabs the enemy's face with his bare hand and throws him into a rock with absolutely broken physics. Without missing a beat, the soldier fires point blank, totally shattering the armor of the mob next to him. Flexing absolute server dominance, the hero tosses his empty mag right in the middle of the absolute chaos. The young guy slams the fresh mag in with crazy fast, mechanical precision. Racking the slide perfectly, his weapon is instantly back online for the sweaty PvP match. Knocked on the ground, the co-leader watches his squad get totally wiped and struggles to type, begging the monster to pause. The PvP arena goes totally silent as the military guy just stands there, surrounded by the folded players. Right then, a blonde merc tries to sneak up on low HP holding a small dagger. Spotting the sketchy play, the combat boss completely flicks around, locking his crosshairs right on the guy. The blonde merc freezes instantly, staring right down the barrel aimed at his headbox. The sergeant's glare drops a terrifying debuff aura, proving he wouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger for real. Realizing the raid is completely chalked, the co-leader scrambles up in a panic and runs away screaming that the boss is literally a demon. The blonde warrior is terrified watching his cowardly boss disconnect, begging him to come back to the lobby. The cowardly boss tries to cover up his extraction by commanding the rest of the lobby to keep pushing the boss. But the toxic player stops dead in his tracks when he sees the rest of his squad wiped and 2 tiny executioners waiting for him. The little green minion drops a massive hit using the stock of his rifle right into the running merc's face. The masked teammate pulls out a combat knife, dropping into an insanely terrifying stance. Radiating pure nightmare fuel, the little beast preps to permaban the squad leader for trying to dodge the fight. Leader's face twists into absolute despair as he realizes there's literally no extraction point left. Spawning in like a straight-up ghost, the sergeant presses the gun barrel right into the back of the villain's head. Dropping a deep boss-level voice line in the demonic language pack, the MC orders the human to drop to his knees instantly. The weight of the command breaks the fighter's poise, and his boots splash down right in the middle puddle. Absolutely humiliated, the militia boss kneels down, totally folded by the soldiers' high stats. The dust from the raid settles, showing the commander holding 100% control of the zone, while the NPCs look absolutely mind-blown. The old town elder and the locals watch the cutscene totally shook by the broken stats of their weird new guardian. The elf hostage stares at the blue guy's back, trying to process how he managed to solo the entire squad so flawlessly. Keeping up the hardcore military discipline, the sergeant orders his green minions to track down any player who managed to avoid the wipe. With the zone totally secure, the commander turns his head and calls the fighter's gamer tag to trigger the next phase of his master plan. It's super cool, the MC asks the girl to kick off the translation, and she nods, still totally bewildered. Looking at the terrified crowd, the soldier asks out loud if the humans there are scared of his crew. Through the elf's translation, he wonders if they're freaking out purely because he's an orc and his sidekicks are goblins. Hugging their families, totally spooked by this intimidating dude, the villagers start whispering among themselves. The soldier drops a truth bomb, admitting his squad is just as terrified of humans. This mutual freak out is literally just because neither side can talk or understand each other properly. The spy keeps translating, tuning into his speech about how a lack of understanding quickly turns into blind hate and irrational discrimination. The boss bitterly points out that this endless loop of senseless prejudice is exactly what causes wars back in his world. A dark flashback of explosions and ruins flashes through the young guy's mind, proving his homeland is literally going up in smoke. Giving them a questioning look, the soldier asks the villagers if they really want their peaceful spot to end up the same way. Stepping forward, he chills everyone out, letting them know they don't need to give a final answer right this second. Switching gears, the Sarge mentions he wants to make a super simple win-win offer to the village. The hero reaches out to the elderly village chief, promising to keep everyone safe from those shady mercenaries. In return, he asks the village to hook his squad up with a safe house and supplies so they can operate without a hitch. Clenching his fist, the MC seals the deal, vowing to protect every single person there, no matter their age or race, as long as they help his team stay in one piece. After hearing the pitch, the old village chief and the locals give the Sarge some serious side-eye. One of the locals speaks up, asking how they're supposed to trust the word of a total stranger. Right after, another villager loses it, claiming these guys are bad news and definitely have a hidden agenda. Keeping his cool, the MC clears things up. His squad's goal is super basic. They just want shelter, snacks, and to chill peacefully in the village. To prove he's one of the good guys, he holsters his weapon, swearing he won't lay a finger on anyone, even if the village passes on the deal. Glancing sideways at the elf translator, the boss stresses that his promise is the real deal. But the vibe instantly flips when he grips his tactical gear tight again. Pointing at the defeated mercenaries on the ground, he warns that things will get super messy if anyone tries to backstab or bully his squad. Flashing a downright scary look, the soldier guarantees any traitors will be joining those knocked out bandits in a heartbeat. This flex totally spooks the villagers, who immediately shrink back in fear. Mustering up some guts, the village chief takes a step forward, apologizes for interrupting, and calls the hero a shaman. The old man spills the tea on a huge problem: some locals are being held hostage at a bandit hideout. Among the victims is a dwarf blacksmith who got snatched and tied up by the goons not too long ago. The chief explains this dwarf is a legit MVP, totally responsible for upgrading the village's engineering and weaving game. Gripping his cane nervously, he worries the village will be wiped out if the bad guys catch wind of their deal with the monsters. The chief wraps it up, saying they can't say yes to the alliance while their people are in danger. Without breaking a sweat, the Sarge states he'll bust all the prisoners out himself. The elf warrior's eyes go wide, completely shook by the selfless vibe of a guy she thought was a straight-up demon. The villagers go completely silent, unable to wrap their heads around the heroic offer they just heard. The MC takes it a step further, promising to remove the bandit threat for good, and asks if that changes their answer. Still a bit skeptical, one of the younger guys stutters, asking how he'd pull off a rescue without even knowing where the hideout is. The military commander reveals his tiny sidekicks are already tracking the runaway merc they let slip on purpose during the brawl. He promises the humans that those arrogant thugs will be out of the picture real soon. Standing tall, the young guy declares his squad pays back bad vibes with bad vibes, and good deeds with good deeds. Hearing this solid statement, Celia thinks about how he's willing to clean up the place specifically because they have a rep as evil beings. The hero wraps up the chat, promising the real threats of that world are about to be permanently logged out. Far from the village, the scene cuts to the isolated mercenary fort, where a guard is yawning his face off on duty. The night watchman grumbles about being tired and asks his buddy if the next shift is awake yet. The enemy base is surprisingly legit, featuring alert archers in the towers and armed guards holding down the front gate. Hidden in the nearby woods, the spy activates her racial magic skill, zooming in her vision to scout the fort's defenses from afar. She relays the intel flawlessly, noting the spot only has one archer in the tower and 2 guards blocking the entrance. She points out the bad guys are wearing basic leather armor and holding simple spears, guessing they're bottom-tier goons. Super impressed by the report, one of the green sidekicks praises the elf's crazy eagle eyes. The Sarge also admits she's a major tactical asset and genuinely apologizes for underestimating her skills before. Boosting her own ego, the elf flashes a proud smile and claims her race rules at archery because they can see details past the mountains. But when the boss asks her to scan the inside of the fort, she panics, thinking he wants her to burn through way too much magic. Keeping it practical, the soldier explains that knowing the floor plan is key to pulling off a fast raid with 0 casualties. Right then, a tiny, colorful lizard chilling on a nearby rock gets snatched up out of nowhere. Moving fast, the little masked monster tries to swallow the critter whole in a fit of extreme munchies. Spotting the goofing off, the MC scolds his minion, ordering everyone to stay locked in on the mission. After a quick smack from the boss, the tiny soldier spits the lizard onto the dirt, totally unharmed. The little helper whines while rubbing his head, as the leader orders everyone to gear up. Super curious, one of the goblins points at the little blue animal, wondering what kind of weird species it is. The hungry minion replies it's just some tasty protein, and even tries to offer the boss a bite. Holding the tiny reptile, the Sarge sizes up the situation and gets a big brain idea to solve their infiltration problem. The smart system kicks in, confirming the lizard is tamed, and it instantly evolves thanks to the MC's special title. Using his new pet's skills, the hero yeets the little guy hard right at the wooden walls. The tiny critter sticks a perfect landing on the building and starts climbing without making a peep. The human guard keeps up his chill patrol on the fort's balcony, totally clueless about the tiny break happening right under his nose. Once inside, the little reptile uses its mutant body to turn into a giant, magical spy eye. The mutated pet scurries down the damp stone hallways, scoping out the base's basement level. Hiding flawlessly in the shadows, the spy carefully tails the local jailer's patrol route. The little guy's camera view shows a super creepy room, littered with chains and harsh interrogation tools everywhere. Far away, the Sarge closes his eyes and syncs his mind perfectly with the living drone he sent into the fort. The military commander lets the squad know the visual link is a go, leaving the elf totally mind-blown by the strat. Driven by curiosity, she takes a step forward and asks for permission to see through the magic too. But the spy freezes in her tracks, stopping herself before she even gets close to him. Lit by the moonlight, the girl's face shows she's having a massive internal battle against her own biases. She roasts herself silently, thinking it's totally wild to even try blending in with this monster crew. Completely bummed out by her own weakness, she curses the cruel irony of becoming useless just because she can't pull a bowstring anymore. She clenches her hands, disgusted with herself, wondering if she's just gonna accept being a permanent letdown to the elf elite. Trying to shake off the bad vibes, she takes a deep breath as she hears the minion excitedly yell about finding the prisoners. Smooth as butter, the Sarge reaches out and presses the jelly radio right onto the frozen girl's face. He hands over the tactical comms device, stating that her help is going to be clutch from here on out. The former hostage holds the little slime to her ear, her heart racing from the sudden trust he just dropped on her. The squad leader takes the wheel, letting them know the prison's layout is being shared with the whole team. Through the shared stream, the crew spots the villagers and the dwarf huddled up and terrified inside a rusty cell. The MC points out that rushing in with monsters would just cause a massive panic attack for the already freaked out victims. Dropping Celia's name for the first time, he decides her calming presence is the only way to prevent a total disaster during the breakout. The warrior gets super emotional and quiet, hearing this guy say the team actually needs her. Behind enemy lines, a merc hears footsteps creeping toward the gate and draws his weapon, going on high alert. The guard steps up, yelling at the intruder to show themselves, as the girl struts out of the fog looking elegant as ever. Instantly, the 2 guards cross their metal spears, blocking the sketchy visitor from getting through. But the guys drop their guard, confused when they realize it's just a good-looking, harmless elf taking a midnight stroll. Taking advantage of this flawless distraction, the green minions breach the watchtower and take out the sniper before he can even blink. The human guard complains to his partner, asking why he's just standing there frozen. Without giving him a second to complain, the green goon pops up from behind and silently puts him to sleep. On the outside, the Sarge leads the push, ordering the squad to rush straight through the front door. Over the radio, he calls the op, calling out one target in the left room, who gets instantly dropped by the tiny fighter. The squad moves in sync, and the boss pings 2 more enemies in the right hallway, who are both neutralized on the spot. With the area clear, the masked sidekick takes point, holding his weapon with zero chill and total focus. Breaking down the formation, the hero decides the second goblin will play support while they push the defenses. He puts Cilia right in the middle to keep her safe, letting them know he's watching their 6. The whole crew rushes down the stone stairs with crazy speed and crack precision. Spotting the prisoners in the cell, the soldier suggests sticking to melee takedowns to delay any alarms until the rescue is in the bag. Right then, one of the guards catches some weird movement and looks back, totally confused. Flexing the keys with total confidence, the elf warrior tells the hostages they can chill out. The villagers literally cry tears of relief, figuring the village chief sent her to bail them out. The spy tells them to zip it instantly and get ready to book it out of there. The MC orders his boys to keep sweeping the fort, promising he'll catch up in a sec. As a final rule, the Sarge gives the green light to go loud with firearms if things get dicey on the way. Unlocking the rusty cell, the elf tells the locals to hustle, revealing the mutant pets will guide them outside. One of the prisoners grumbles, super annoyed that the young girl called him an old human. The dwarf makes a sarcastic comment about the rare sight of a pointy-eared spy walking around without her sacred gear. But his attention snaps to the absolute unit standing at the end of the dark hallway. The hostage goes into shock when he realizes it's a blue-skinned warrior. Pure terror takes over the locals, who back up in fear, screaming about a monster being in the house. Total chaos breaks out in the prison, with the captives yelling that they're getting raided again. Trying to stop the panic, Cilia swears the soldier is totally chill and came to save them. The MC just watches the screaming, keeping his poker face and staying dead silent. Struggling to explain the weird setup, the girl tries to convince the squad that he's actually super friendly. Hearing that weak excuse, the dwarf lets out a loud, obnoxious laugh. He mocks the claim, thinking there's zero chance a guy like that has an ounce of goodness in him. Flexing his muscles, the hostage declares the light race is super untrustworthy, and that he wants to wipe them all out. Driven by his ego, the guy swears he'd rather rot in that jail than get saved by such a weirdo squad. Ignoring the stubbornness, the boss checks the guy's condition and figures he went through some serious trauma under those mercs. The prisoner claps back angrily, insisting his face, always like that, and demanding some respect. Puffing out his chest, he introduces himself as the proud Balik, and the Sarge asks if he's the famous blacksmith. Balik looks confused by how smoothly the guy talks, but his eyes quickly lock onto the gear the dude is packing. The craftsman checks out the weapon, totally blown away by the flawless finish and heavy-duty steel of that complex hardware. Grabbing the soldier super aggressively, the dwarf begs to know how it works, but gets shoved off right away. The chat is cut off by a desperate scream echoing through the base's halls. The sound of gunfire and chaos makes the hero radio his minions, demanding a sitrip ASAP. The minion frantically reports that they just bumped into the true boss of the mercenaries. Floating over a pile of cash, a mage is flexing her crazy, scary magical aura. The little fighter confirms her look, warning that she's throwing some heavy-duty spells. The Sarge is completely lost, wondering how something this busted is happening right in the middle of a mission. Spinning her staff like a pro, the villain charges up a massive amount of energy around herself. She launches a rapid attack at the intruders, screaming her ultimate move's name. The masked minion runs for his life, dodging the glowing orbs that are wrecking the whole room. The little green dudes jump around like crazy, dodging the energy blasts hitting the stone walls. The radio screeches and the boss yells in a panic, demanding an update from his squad. Realizing how bad things are, he orders the elf to extract all the prisoners out of there ASAP. The hero turns his back and sprints down the hall, while the girl begs him not to go solo. Balik grabs the blue guy's attention with a massive shout. With a cannon of an arm, the blacksmith yeets a shiny object straight at the soldier. The MC catches the loot mid-air like a pro, never breaking his tactical sprint. The golden item shines in his hands, hyped up by its creator as the absolute peak of engineering. The dwarf flexes by giving the skeleton key some ridiculous name, making the spy look at his invention with pure cringe. He promises the soldier will know exactly where to plug it in once he gets there. Sprinting at top speed, the Sarge prays in his head that his boys can hold the line until he arrives. The hero readies his gun and starts blasting, clearing a path through the fort's inner defenses. In the main room, the two tiny fighters pull a tactical retreat while shooting at the floating menace. Uses a wicked tone, asking where the little critters think they're running. Hovering in the air, the villain demands the intruders entertain her a lot more before getting permanently deleted. Stacking up even more magic, the woman summons a second storm of overpowered spells. The crushing hit catches the minion's head, violently tossing both of them across the room. Suddenly, the bandit boss spots a weird flash and looks back, genuinely scared. Using her sick reflexes, she pops a magic shield that tanks the rapid fire perfectly. Keeping his sights locked on the woman, the Sarge coldly asks if she's the real raid boss of this place. The mage trashes the guy, spitting his race's name with absolute disgust. She vows to crush this cocky challenger and summons her pet beast into the fray. A giant shadow drops over the soldier as the tiny goon on the floor warns him about the massive threat right behind him. The hero gets spooked, feeling the overwhelming presence totally dominating the room. Raising its massive claws, a hideous monster steps up, ready to pancake the intruder in one hit. The wild beast lets out a deafening roar, flexing all its untamed rage. With an acrobatic jump, the MC barely dodges the strike that shatters the entire floor. Sliding across the ground, he gets his footing back and unloads his weapon straight into the monster. But the bullets just bounce off the beast's armored feathers, doing literally zero damage. Seeing his strat fail completely, the Sarge curses, realizing the gun is useless here. Fighting the colossal beast, the Sarge panics as he realizes his hits aren't doing a single point of damage. Speedloading his piece, he scans the room with insane tension. Determined to protect the boys, the hero decides to stall the beast as long as he can so they can dip. Right then, a perfect shot nails the giant monster square in the eyes. The beast lets out a massive roar of pain from the surprise hit. The creature starts thrashing wildly all over the place. Using this tiny window, the boss orders his squad to bolt and promises to hold the aggro. Out of his range, the mage shows off her ego from the top of a stone pillar. The villain mocks the crew's try-hard attitude, claiming the mercs actually need some chaos to keep their business profitable. Treating them like disposable NPCs, she questions their audacity to come wreck her base. With zero chill, the woman summons multiple wind arrows, threatening to chop off the opponent's limbs. The soldier's eyes widen, stunned by how fast the magic is zooming right at him. Taking a heavy hit, he gets knocked backward, unable to dodge in time. In the middle of the chaos, the monster ignores the warning and scoops up one of the tiny fighters effortlessly. Down on the ground, the MC watches the scene, badly hurt and super tilted by his own helplessness. From her high ground pillar, the mage watches the beast pin the Sarge into the stone floor. Pinned under the monster's weight, the soldier grunts, trying to wrap his head around its broken strength stat. Annoyed by the noise, the villain waves her wand and demands those filthy creatures shut up right now. Out of nowhere, a metal cage drops from the ceiling, swinging dangerously. Still pinned, the hero stares at the hanging trap, totally lost by the surprise drop. He's squinting, he spots something super familiar swinging way up there. A little green hand waves through the bars, practically begging for an assist. A huge padlock seals the only exit, keeping the minion locked up without mercy. Instantly figuring out the context, the blue guy is legit impressed. Running on instinct, his hand darts straight to one of his pockets. The Sarge pulls out the shiny, gold key, remembering it's the dwarf blacksmith's ultimate invention. Looking at the enchanted tool, he remembers the promise that he'd know exactly when to pop it. But the gap between him and the hanging cage makes a quick save super tricky. Right nearby, the second green helper tries to make a play, tightly grabbing the blue slime. The little jelly buddy makes a hyped-up noise, totally ready to scrap. Stuck to its owner's vest, the slime wriggles fast, catching the soldier's eye. A flashback of the grinning dwarf blacksmith pops into the MC's mind, serving up the perfect solution. Going all out, the hero yeets the little monster through the air in a straight line for the cage. The little guy flies across the room like a bullet, right past the criminal boss's face. Totally thrown off by the weird toss, the woman goes into high alert. Suspicious of the opponent's moves, she spams her wind magic furiously. The slime stretches out mid-air, perfectly dodging the rapid-fire spells. Being super nimble, the jelly bro reaches the keyhole, clutching the golden key. The little dude slots the item into the padlock without wasting a single millisecond. After a quick click, the metal lock pops, opening the Jadeway rote. The cage gives way, dropping the tiny helper along with a bunch of little round critters. The swarm of harmless pets freefalls fast, landing right on top of the stone pillar. Completely ambushed by this rain of weird pets, the mage is just standing there buffering. One of the little critters drops perfectly onto the terrified villain's face. Losing her balance from the jump scare, the woman plummets screaming off the structure. The merc boss crashes into the wooden crates below, making a painful thud and kicking up a huge dust cloud. Flailing in absolute panic, she screams for those filthy animals to back off. Swipe, the mage snatches her wand back, recovering a bit of her boss energy. She blasts a wave of energy, sweeping all the annoying little mobs out of her way. Behind all the mess, the giant winged monster drops another roar of absolute rage. Out of breath, the villain stands up, crushing one of the cute mobs in her hands with pure hate. Keeping up her boss vibe, she orders the giant beast to stop trolling around. She grumbles about losing control of her own crew while holding the prisoner. Demanding obedience on the spot, the mage orders the beast to mercilessly pancake the Sarge into the ground. The colossal creature raises its giant paw, threatening to wipe the downed hero off the server once and for all. With insane survival reflexes, the soldier rolls sideways, dodging the wipe mechanic by a hair. Summoning the wind elementals, the bandit boss starts casting a super complex spell. The magic buffs her legs, boosting her speed stat to finish off the enemies for good. Suddenly, Cilia spawns in the room, radiating an absolutely glorious green aura. Totally frozen by the overwhelming energy, the villain asks who the heck this interloper is. Walking with quiet, confident steps, the elf proves she's got total map control. The girl flexes a merciless glare, calling her opponent an ignorant scrub. Feeling the insane pressure, the mage panic spams her magic attacks. The spy leaps with crazy smoothness, casually dodging the arrows and claiming she owns the wind in this zone. Pulling off a flawless mid-air spin, she reflects the attack, showing off her massive advantage in this one-on-one. Rocking a face of pure confidence, Cilia announces the winds here belong to her now. Surfing the updrafts, the girl catches some crazy air right above her opponent. Channeling all her power into her body, the heroine dive bombs like a lightning strike. The warrior lands a devastating dropkick, leaving absolutely 0 frames to block. The crushing hit connects dead on, shattering the floor around them. Terrified by the broken power level it just witnessed, the flying beast nopes right out of there and abandons the fight. Dust kicks up in the base's hall, hiding the real damage caused by that brutal hit. Stepping out of the smoke, the elf touches down smoothly and with serious style. Hugging the blue slime tight, the little minion looks at their savior, totally starstruck. With the threat neutralized, the green goons throw their hands up, celebrating the epic W. The Sarge reaches his hand out to the elf warrior, asking her not to read too much into the friendly gesture. She shakes it back, clarifying she only stepped in because she couldn't stand the thought of owing a supposed monster. They finally shake hands, locking in a silent alliance after all that chaos. The military commander calmly accepts the excuse, saying her debt is officially wiped clean with that rescue. Off to the side in the stone hallway, the dwarf blacksmith marches with purpose, gripping a wooden club tight. Without blinking, he steps over the knocked out mercs scattered all over the floor. The freed hostage stops right in front of one of the unconscious thugs and raises his makeshift bat. In a quick move, he grabs the knocked out bandit by the neck, proving he has 0 intention of forgiving his bad times. Staring the goon down, the dwarf flashes the merciless look of a guy ready to get payback for all his days locked up. But instead of swinging, he just lets out a long, loud whistle that echoes through the basement. Back in the main hall, the heavy vibe shifts into chill time with the animals that used to be enemies. One of the furry little monsters chugs some mystery purple liquid straight from a bowl the crew handed over. The MC patiently feeds the pets, making sure they heal up nice after that exhausting brawl. The system confirms the big beast and her babies were successfully treated, using a special elixir blessed by the elf warrior herself. The giant beast lets out a screech so loud the Sarge has to cover his ears, right as the AI declares the official taming of that beast bloodline. The whole squad gathers around their brand new furry teammates, shook by how fast those beasts calmed down. Right then, the dwarf blacksmith posts up at the room's entrance with the energy of a guy who just wrapped up his unfinished business. The ex-prisoner shows off some fresh confidence, ready to lead his fellow citizens back home. Meanwhile, back at the village, the old chief paces anxiously, trying to figure out what on earth went down past the walls last night. He spots the squad returning safe and sound, bringing back all the prisoners along with some massive, never-before-seen mounts. The hero leads the march, admitting that the results of the night raid completely blew past his original expectations. The villagers run out crying to hug their loved ones who just got freed from the thugs' control. Pure tears of relief take over the village as they drop endless thanks for the miracle of being back together. The old chief walks up to the blue-skinned soldier to decide what to do with the defeated raiders they captured. Gesturing to the tied-up goons on the ground, he tells the village they have full permission to decide what happens to that trash. Snapping back into negotiator mode, the MC turns his head to demand an official answer about the alliance they pitched earlier. Super casually, he asks straight up if the humans are finally down to ally with his squad peacefully. Filled with gratitude, the old man can barely hold back his tears as he gives his final answer to their savior. The green light comes in the form of a massive party toast at the tavern, making it official that the squad is super welcome in the village. The locals raise their glasses in a collective hype cheer, promising they'll give these weird heroes the best treatment ever. During the party, the old bear cubs and the slimes absolutely inhale a huge chunk of meat the second they get the go-ahead to feast. The little green minions don't miss out either, wolfing down their plates with total beast mode hunger. Watching this, the elf judges their table manners with serious disgust, totally rejecting how gross those creatures are. Noticing he's being watched, one of the goblins happily chews his food and super nicely offers a piece to the girl. The warrior gulps, super uncomfy with the drool, covered offer from the tiny soldier boy. To avoid being rude to the hosts, she decides to try blending in and grabs the little purple jelly monster with her hands. The slime makes a cute little noise, while the girl mentally preps herself to drink the magic potion handed to her. Sitting at a table further back, the military commander watches his squad interact with a quiet, analytical vibe. His face shows the heavy burnout from combat mixed with the massive burden of keeping all these guys alive. Slowly, the wall of prejudice crumbles, and the spy finally starts sharing food with the little monsters without making a big deal out of it. This whole wholesome vibe triggers a flashback for the guy, reminding him of the rare chill moments he had with his old human squad. The contrast between his dark past and this moment of peace makes him think about the absolutely wild turn his life took. Snapping him out of his nostalgia, a heavy cup full of drink slams violently onto the wooden table right in front of him. The dwarf sits face to face with the soldier, pointing out that for a monster, he's got insane talent for playing the hero. Keeping his skeptical vibe, the blacksmith swears he's not falling for the act, believing the demon race never actually changes their true colors. The rescued hostage argues that the soldier took out his enemies without hesitating, asking what the real difference is between him and the bad guys. The Sarge takes a sip of his drink, totally brushing off the accusation, and just drops a sarcastic comment, asking if his pronunciation in their language is really that bad. Right after, the blue guy calls the dwarf by his full name super directly, catching the man off guard. Using a dead, serious tone, the MC decides to accurately break down the massive difference between his squad and that gang of thugs. He coldly states his squad is just way more overpowered and lethal, which is literally why they're alive chatting right now, while the enemies got logged out. Punching the table, the hero claims their only goal is survival, and absolutely nothing else matters besides that harsh reality. Wrapping up his speech, the soldier drops the magic golden key on the wood, saying thanks for the clutch loan during the raid. The blacksmith cracks a sideways smile, admitting the guy doesn't act or sound like a basic mob, and asks for his real name. Across the room, the elf's long ear twitches fast when she catches that super important question in the air. The warrior drops her food instantly, dialing her focus to max to finally figure out who her supposed kidnapper actually is. Not hiding a thing, the guy starts by dropping his rank, but quickly corrects himself, revealing he's just Lee John. The spy repeats his name in a low whisper, saving the data to memory while looking pretty embarrassed. The craftsman finds the weird spelling super confusing, thinking names from that species should sound way more edgy and beastly. Running out of patience with the stubborn labels, the hero states he's not part of that green species, making the man call him completely insane. Resting his face in his hand, the Sarge straight up reveals he was a human from another world before glitching into this bizarre place. The night stays super chill outside the tavern, while these unbelievable secrets get dropped downstairs. The dwarf instantly takes his whole drink, busting out laughing in the most obnoxious way when he hears that flex. Slapping the table, he calls all this talk about emerald dragons and cross-dimensional beef the funniest joke he's ever heard. The guy keeps cackling, calling the soldier a massive capper, thinking it's awesome they ran into such a creative, hilarious monster. Leaning right into the guy's face, the blacksmith sarcastically asks if Phase 2 of his genius master plan is conquering their whole world. Raising his mug with hype, the dwarf suggests a fun toast to celebrate his new drinking buddy's harmless delusions. As his only comeback to the sarcasm, the military commander casually pulls the mystic green egg from his bag and plops it right in the middle of the table. The visual shock of the item makes the craftsman choke again, his eyes going wide with panic as he recognizes the stats on that ancient artifact. While the dude coughs trying to breathe, the hero explains he needs to hatch the mob so he can force the entity to fast, travel him back home. Suddenly, the loud crash of a chair hitting the floor violently cuts their chat totally short. The elf warrior stumps over to their table, wearing a look of absolute rage. Without dropping a single syllable, the girl jumps and lands a super heavy downward kick, clearly aiming to smash the magic egg to pieces. The crushing blow snaps the wooden table cleanly in half, sending splinters everywhere while the divine loot goes flying. The partying locals pause the celebration instantly, staring at the sudden damage with zero clue why the girl just raged out. The old village chief freezes in place holding his cup, watching in total silence as chaos takes over his chill village once again. Taken over by pure tilt, the warrior attacks with full force, dropping a magic-infused strike. The Sarge yells the elf's name, ordering her to drop the aggro right this second. Using crazy reflexes, the soldier throws his arm up to tank the overwhelming weight of the attack. The girl's eyes bug out in total shock when she sees her attack got parried. Acting fast, the blue guy grabs her by the collar with a rock-solid grip. The spy screams furiously, calling the hero out as just another one of the Green Dragon's goons. Boiling with spite, she demands answers and trashes the boss, calling him a cursed monster. In that exact moment, one of the tiny green helpers pulls his weapon and aims it right at the girl. The pointy-eared girl spots the incoming threat from the minion and freezes when she realizes the risk. Stop a total disaster, the MC orders his crew to back off. The dwarf blacksmith jumps in the middle of the beef, telling them both to shut it. He looks at the soldier, pointing out he doesn't have a clue what dimension this young dude is from. However, the man makes it crystal clear that chats about the Green Dragon shouldn't be happening in this spot. The craftsman argues that starting a riot in middle of town isn't doing anyone any favors. Looking for some privacy, the squad decides to migrate to a way more hidden and secure location. Hitting the new safe house, the blacksmith taps a tool against the eggshell to test its durability stats. The dwarf confirms the material is basically an immortal element and absolutely unbreakable. Restrained once again, the warrior warns the Sarge to hold on to that mind control spell tight. The girl promises that if the magic slips for even a single moment, she'll smash the egg and his skull to pieces. The hero ignores the toxic chat and asks if the girl is from Tuscarella's maternal bloodline. The craftsman mentions the famous lore of the elf who lost her mom and got her arm messed up. He explains that the trauma stopped the girl from pulling a bow against the scary forest boss. The spy looks down, remembering the decades she blew grinding for clues about her rival. Holding the item, the guy admits practically all the ancient races know about this lore. Putting the pieces together, the soldier finally gets why her arm is debuffed. Overwhelmed by her tragic backstory, the elf yells for everyone to shut up while punching the wall. Flashbacks of the brutal boss fight in the mountains totally haunt the prisoner's mind. Crying out of pure hate, she screams that an elf's grudge lasts for over 1,000 years. The girl vows she'll get her revenge on the monster and every single mob that serves him. But the dwarf points at the soldier, arguing she's directing her aggro at the wrong guy. Blinded by her thirst for payback, the girl swears she doesn't care at all about who he really is deep down. The MC scratches his chin, analyzing the board, and decides this solves the problem perfectly. The elf and the blacksmith are left completely clueless about the guy's thought process. Holding the magic shell, the hero clears things up his one and only goal is finding the fast travel back to his world. He offers to hand the enemy over to the warrior the exact second he gets the answers he's grinding for. The two of them are shook, doubting if such a wild trade is actually doable. The craftsman asks if the Sarge is seriously just going to drop the forest boss that easily. Holding the egg, the spy admits she doesn't have the DPS to crack that indestructible shell right now. The military commander assures her she can keep the loot, as long as he gets enough time to interrogate it later. Keeping his eyes on the main quest, he warns that this is his one non-negotiable term. The girl pulls a confused face while the dwarf tries not to laugh out loud. The blacksmith drops a massive laugh, finding it crazy that an orc would just hand over that magic loot to an elf. The tiny minions go into full panic mode, convinced this whole scenario is just a massive bad dream. One of the helpers demands the egg back, while the girl agrees to assist with the incubation process. Hugging the item affectionately, the goblins swear they'll keep it warm as a way to punish the pointy-eared girl later. Pausing the drama, the dwarf warns that minion body heat isn't going to cut it to hatch the creature. He explains the leveling process requires a massive burst of pure magic generated through high-tier engineering. Seizing the opportunity, the blacksmith decides to set his own terms for helping the hero. The guy remembers the tactical firearm and shows some major hype for its mechanics. Flexing an ambitious look, he demands all the weapon blueprints from the soldier's reality. The craftsman goes further, asking for the tech specs to craft that metal gear. The MC calmly restates the offer, trying to gauge how huge this deal actually is. With a confident smirk, the dwarf guarantees the egg will never pop without a constant flow of mana. He warns that without the right support, the artifact will just stay AFK for 1,000 years without fading or hatching. As a workaround, the former hostage pitches building a custom incubator using his maxed out engineering skills. The elf warrior asks if the dude actually has the skill tree to build a rig like that. The blacksmith proudly declares it'd be an absolute breeze if they had access to his species arc. Intrigued by the word, the Sarge asks exactly what the heck this place he named is. The craftsman shifts to a serious tone, detailing that it was the final kingdom built by his people. A massive, crab-shaped mechanical base pops into everyone's imagination as their ultimate flex. The colossal machine takes a heavy step, bulldozing the trees in its path. The build was constructed on the shell of an ancient mimic boss that roams the zone. The blacksmith brags, calling it a moving weapon stash and the ultimate legacy of his culture. Full of hype, he promises that inside, they can craft the magic incubator as easily as baking bread. The craftsman reaches out his hand to formally lock in the request with the mysterious dragon spawner. The Sarge pulls the golden key his ally tossed earlier out of his pocket. The guy promises to use the tool to unlock the fortress and get the forest boss hatched. Keeping his poker face, the blue-skinned guy weighs the risks of sharing this overpowered tech. Obsessed with upgrades, the dwarf demands the weapon manufacturing blueprints as payment for his services. The night passes silently, covering the roof of the squad's makeshift safe house. Inside the room, the tiny minions and the slimes are sleeping peacefully, all stacked up. The military commander stays awake, running a solo patrol in the dead of night. Focused on his tactical check, he accurately loads the bullets into his pistol's mag. The soldier slams the mag in and racks the slide, prepping the hardware for instant use. Holding the final bullet, the hero thinks about how this server is still hard, stuck in the medieval age when it comes to weapons. The MC's mind runs through harsh realities, noting a kid can never beat a grown man in a physical brawl. Using that same brutal logic, older folks and women have zero chance against dudes at peak physical strength. Taking that into account, he realizes the vast majority of humans are totally unable to take down violent mobs with broken strength. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but the Sarge gets that physical stats dictate the rules and hold up the structure of this world. Standing in the shadows aiming his own piece, he wonders if he should really hand over such lethal tech to the locals, fearing it might just speedrun their society into total collapse. The blue guy dreads the chance that these modern weapons could end up wiping out all the natural life in the zone. The chill human village rests under the moonlight as he wonders if this move won't just nuke their own culture entirely. Staring at the little jelly minions sleeping peacefully, the commander feels the crushing weight of this choice. Suddenly, a harsh voice echoes in his head, telling him to stop overthinking and just follow his literal orders. The flashback pulls him back to the horrors of modern warfare, where a superior ordered the squad to drop their moral filters and just shoot, leaving the fallout for future generations to judge. In the middle of the war zone, a rookie soldier tries to call off the strike, pleading that the target is a spot packing some seriously valuable and vibrant cultural heritage. Over the boom of the bombs, the recruit argues the area holds the whole history and foundation of their own society. Totally ignoring the plea, the squad officer pushes forward ruthlessly, asking if the kid thinks he actually wants to cause this wreckage for fun. Utterly destroyed by his superior's ice-cold attitude, the rookie cries, pointing out the officer used to be a college professor, just like him, and can't grasp how he can act like nothing matters. The commander looks at the soldier with pure ice, asking where the heck the rookie still saw a teacher in this nightmare scenario. The officer stresses that all their old identities are wiped, proving there are only friendlies and hostiles left on the battlefield. Pressing the panicking comrade, he states that jobs, ages, and genders don't mean jack anymore, because society's rules have straight up collapsed. Grabbing the guy by his armor, the superior blows up in rage, warning that the nation they used to own belongs to someone else now, and a rookie's lifespan doesn't even top 20 minutes in this mess. The vet keeps venting his frustration, mentioning most of the young guys are already gone, forcing the army to drag older dudes like them into the grinder. Without dropping his harsh tone, he asks the professor how many more of their squad will have to get wiped out in this tragedy just to protect a pile of relics. The military commander wraps up, swearing that concrete and wooden walls aren't the priority, the only thing that matters is tomorrow, aka survival, and then calls in the order over the radio. Leaning on a low wall watching the city, he starts the lethal broadcast, dropping the target's coordinates to heavy artillery. Instantly, the view of the city gets swallowed by destructive flashes, officially ending everything they ever knew. The rookie watches the airstrike in pure shock, mumbling the mission code while feeling the guilt of that massive wipe. Turning his head to ignore the fallout, the officer repeats the final coordinates, his face totally painted with pain and regret. Cut back to the present, the blue Sarge holds his head in the dark room, haunted by the coordinates of that unforgettable tragedy. The waking nightmare gets cut by a worried call from his little green minion screaming for the boss. The two goons show up carrying a bowl of food, asking if the hero is feeling okay and if he fell asleep on duty again. Trying to push away the dark memories, the guy turns his head to watch the sunrise through the wooden gap. Stretching with some fresh energy, the MC decides it'd be a bummer to wreck this world, but he's already way past the point of caring about the local society. Aiming his gun against the sunlight, the soldier decides the rules of this new zone are just speed bumps he's gotta drive over. Looking at his quirky squad of tiny monsters and an elf, he confirms that staying alive is still his ultimate main quest. Holding onto his solid resolve, the guy realizes his personal battle isn't over and he needs to find a way to travel back to his original squad in one piece. Keeping his eyes locked on the dwarf blacksmith in front of him, The commander silently promises he'll do whatever it takes to hit that goal without blinking. With a clean move, he sets his firearm down on the wooden table, showing he's ready to go all in. The MC seriously declares he's going to hand over all the mechanical know-how of that gadget without a second thought. The craftsman is blown away hearing the deal goes way past just the engineering tech inside that pistol. Tapping his fingers on the metal gun, the blue guy promises to leak every single war weapon blueprint saved in his memory. The dwarf is totally hyped for the chance to unlock the combat tech from all the wars of that unexplored universe. But the soldier dips his head with a cold, calculated look, warning there's one non-negotiable prerequisite to seal the deal. He points his finger dead at the wooden bowl holding the purple liquid, catching the dude totally off guard. Without beating around the bush, the Sarge orders the blacksmith to chug that elixir right then and there. Stepping up as the shot caller with his squad backing him, the hero demands the craftsman join the crew permanently. Flashing a piercing glare, the boss demands the guy not only copy the weapons he was told about but also craft an arsenal of high-tier guns way better than the originals. Sweating bullets over the demand, the freed hostage steps back, terrified the weird potion will mind control him just like it did to the pointy-eared girl. The Sarge explains the juice is just a basic security measure, ensuring the leaked weapon intel doesn't get used against their own squad later. The blacksmith argues, asking how the soldier would stop those destructive weapons from being used after he warps back to his home dimension. Showing zero cares, the MC says that won't matter to him anymore, and from that point on, all the hardware belongs to the craftsman. The guy sizes up the leader's distant vibe and admits he used to think the kid was different from the bad mobs because he had a human soul. But flashing a massive grin, the blacksmith admits that, looking closer, the soldier's style is definitely nowhere near as harmless as a normal person's. Locking eyes with the Sarge's intense red ones, the freed prisoner confesses he actually totally respects that ruthless energy. Without pausing again, the dwarf grabs the wooden bowl, deciding the offer makes total sense and doesn't nerf him at all. Super thirsty for the upgrade, the guy tilts the purple fluid back and chugs the elixir brewed by the helpers in one gulp. He violently slams the empty bowl on the table, proving he locked in his side of the deal. The craftsman hypes up and reaches out his hand, officially accepting his spot in this military collab. The duo shares a look of total understanding, both driven by the same hardcore grind to stay alive in this zone. The handshake seals the deal just as the AI detects the high-level dwarf consuming the recovery potion. But the system instantly throws an error for mind submission, noting his race packs an innate buff against mental manipulation. The feature tries to force physical control as Plan B, but a fail warning pops up, showing his mechanical build completely blocked the magic. Being totally immune to the domination spell, the blacksmith's robotic eyeballs light up in a bright blue, flexing his complex internal engineering. Using a tiny rustic tool, the blacksmith inspects one of the weapon's cartridges with intense focus. Sitting at the table with the squad, he correctly figures out the casing holding the powder is completely cast in brass. The craftsman rolls the piece in his hands, heavily analyzing the flawlessly forged metal. Thanks to his massive XP, he notes the object's body was pressed under extreme heat and pressure for durability, plus it has a polish that boosts its lifespan and gives it a shine. The ex-hostage's big brain quickly gets that the core holds inactive powder, which gets triggered by the reactive primer slapped on the back end. The elf warrior stares at the tiny bullet on the table, still thinking it's bizarre to simp so hard over such a small piece of scrap. Without dropping his pipe, the dwarf catches a key detail and deduces the lead core is jacketed in copper. At first, the guy scrunches his face in confusion, wondering why the dev opted for such soft material that gets totally shredded on impact. In a flash, his eyes go wide as a galaxy brain thought hits him, realizing the raw destructive purpose behind that mechanical setup. Yelling with hype, the blacksmith explains the soft jacket stops wear and tear on the gun barrel, and at the same time is designed to mushroom inside the target, causing catastrophic internal damage. Totally geeking out over the blueprint, the craftsman praises the modern, lethal design he spotted in that tiny piece of metal. The spy is mind blown when she realizes all that surgical engineering is literally just a consumable item for a one-shot attack. The little green minions judge the dwarf's weird excitement, calling him a creep for getting so intimate with an inanimate object. Ignoring the chat's toxic comments, the guy drops the ammo on the table and pulls the whole pistol closer. Flashing a look of pure crazy joy, the blacksmith raises his spoon, demanding the gun gets stripped instantly so he can check its internals. Using the spoon like a precision tool, the dwarf gets ready to take apart the pistol's inner mechanics. But all of a sudden, the dude freezes in place without moving a single muscle. From outside the safe house, the whole squad spots this, finding his random lag spike super sketchy. The craftsman gets a blank stare looking into the void, making the elf wonder what's going on with their new teammate. In that moment, a drop of red juice trickles down the blacksmith's nose without him even noticing. Without a single warning, Balik falls backward stiff as a board, throwing the crew into absolute panic. The Sarge sprints over in a panic, yelling the craftsman's name out loud. The spy checks the guy's vitals and reports in horror that he's stopped breathing and his pulse flatlined. With his body on the floor, the warrior sadly announces the blacksmith has passed away. Ignoring the tragic game over screen, the hero orders the immediate removal of the dwarf's armor. Super confused by the command, Celia hesitates while the little monsters assume the boss wants to loot the past guy, because he's got the soul of a true monster. However, the green helper changes his expression, trying to process what the heck is actually happening. With pro skills, the soldier starts doing heavy chest compressions on the knocked out ally. The girl stutters in fear, asking what on earth he's trying to do to the past guy. Using a dark tone, the little monster guesses it's a sadistic BM move to humiliate defeated players. The scene hits peak weirdness when the soldier takes a deep breath and blows air straight into the blacksmith's mouth. Seeing this totally sus behavior, the elf and the goblin are completely grossed out and lose their words. Luckily, the strat works perfectly and the craftsman wakes up coughing and gasping hard for air. Bouncing right back from the respawn screen, the guy instantly starts yelling like a madman about the difference in metals used for the upper and lower receivers of the gun. The nearby locals start whispering with their jaws on the floor, assuming they just witnessed an insanely overpowered revive spell. The human crowd hypes up the heal, praising the surreal skills of the so-called Blue Shaman. The pointy-eared girl is absolutely stunned by what went down, whispering that she didn't sense a single drop of mana in that heal. Not caring at all about the crowd's hype, Balik keeps ranting non-stop about the complex melting and finishing process for the alien material. The shock from the brilliance of that engineering is so heavy the dwarf runs out of stamina and drops to his knees. Clenching the pistol like a legendary item, he praises the hardware, calling it a metal prodigy and a legit lethal masterpiece. Taking advantage of his buddy's hype, the Sarge asks straight up if he has the specs to craft something like it. The blacksmith drops his head in frustration, admitting it super sucks to accept his own skill issues. Keeping it 100, the guy admits crafting the gun here is totally impossible even with years of grinding, unless they were using the dwarf arc. Looking for a loophole, the craftsman asks if there's an older beta build that runs on a different system than the one he's holding right now. With hope in his eyes, he begs the hero to share the specs for other guns that are easier to craft in the workshop. The MC points to his own head, signaling he's got a complete armory saved in his military memories. Flashing a confident smile, the soldier promises to stream all that mechanical knowledge to his buddy in person. Hyped by the massive challenge, the blacksmith lifts his hammer with max energy and starts the grind. The glowing metal takes precision hits while the forge fire burns hard, lighting up the room. Together, the duo chats heavily about the blueprints, merging local mechanics with alien combat theory. The craftsman's brain gets flooded with mental screenshots of classic weapons firing in gritty war zones. Then, the mental cutscene upgrades, showing humans spraying multi-shot-long guns from trenches in the middle of pure chaos. Unlocking all that machinery logic, the dwarf is fascinated by the destructive genius of those people. The forging grind continues with zero breaks, and the heavy tool violently smashes the iron block on the anvils to shape it. The Sarge keeps casting the mental images, showing security agents packing classic revolvers in massive cities. The setting levels up, showing tactical squads breaching danger zones using fast, short automatic weapons. The data dump of advanced details is so massive the blacksmith clutches his head, practically going crazy from the hype and mana drain. Every single piece starts making sense, revealing the core mechanic of the system that ejects the rifle casings. The physical reload animation for the long gun gets perfectly downloaded into the builder's genius brain. All these terrifying and lethal builds were part of the hero and his squad's history, fighting on the front lines in the human world. Locked into his flawless craft, the dwarf blacksmith lands a devastating hit on the glowing block, lighting up the whole forge. The melted iron gets a brutal thermal shock in the water, spawning a thick fog of hot air in the makeshift room. The finished build goes live the second the metal barrel of the brand new homemade rifle spits crazy fire. The hero racks the lever of the freshly crafted shotgun, while the warrior and the craftsman watch the tech test, super impressed. The violent impact shows zero mercy, completely shredding the wooden target into 1,000 pieces mid-air. Testing the next tactical prototype, the Sarge grabs a heavy, large caliber piece, checking if the grip feels solid and comfy. Hitting a smooth and clean animation, he racks the pump toward himself, chambering it to blast again. The empty shell pops out the side window, proving the improvised mod runs flawlessly in the shooter's hands. Flexing all his military XP, the MC locks his stance and aims down sights at the target set up ahead. A massive boom echoes through the spot, deleting multiple targets all a once thanks to the blast's crazy AoE. Happy with the DPS, the leader checks out the 3 exclusive weapons laid on the cloth, hyping up the top, tier crafting done under such scuffed conditions. The blacksmith cracks a smile and laughs, totally full of himself, insisting the real flex of those mechanical builds is hidden inside the frame. The craftsman explains he slotted tiny magic stones into the trigger and the firing pin, which instantly react to the user's physical input. He shows the schematic, clearing up that this pressure procs a super tiny mystic seal engraved right on the back of the bullet itself. Perfectly syncing mechanics with magic, the inside of the casing holds a mini fire spell that creates a massive explosive kick in the chamber. The explosion gets totally walled off at the back, so 100% of its power channels down the barrel, violently pushing the metal tip out. Passing through the barrel's rifling that packs speed, buff magic, the ammo gains crack velocity and a spin that pierces absolutely everything. To field test the final craft, the blue guy pulls the trigger on the sidearm, feeling the heavy recoil in his hand. Totally amazed, he hypes up the build for flawlessly mixing human combat tech with the region's lethal local magic. The elf and the dwarf just stare at the shooter spinning the cylinder and speed, reloading the weapon in complete silence. Keeping his standards at max, the leader asks why his buddy didn't just push to craft a high-performance, rapid-fire automatic rifle on the first try. The craftsman tilts immediately, screaming that he scavenged every piece of scrap metal in the village, and it took him 7 full days just to melt down that low-tier iron. Huffing with annoyance at the request, the guy claims that dropping 1 long gun, 1 heavy caliber, and 1 sidearm is already a legit godsend. Pointing at the Sarge, the blacksmith warns that if they want to farm rapid fire gear and the massive incubator, they gotta rush the Arc ASAP. Checking his brand new combat weapons, the MC reads the room and accepts their one and only option is heading to the robotic fortress. Without wasting a single extra second on dialogue, the military commander yells at max volume, ordering the whole squad to form up and march. The entire crew lines up fast near the mounts, as the dwarf gives the heads up that the Arc is located near the Empire's center on an island far away. The hero locks in the current strat, deciding they'll tag along with the local merchant guild to hit their goal without taking any sketchy risks. One of the tiny helpers readies his rifle, and the Sarge orders everyone to do a deep check on their inventory before the trip. Resting the long gun on his massive shoulder, the blacksmith confirms all systems go and the path is clear to start the epic raid waiting for them. Holding the freshly dropped rifle with a super awkward stance, the elf warrior inspects the wood and metal rig with zero clue how the item actually works. The blue Sarge calls the girl's name and guides her to take a step forward. Then, he passes the rustic weapon right into her hands, leaving her completely shocked by the move. The commander clears up that, despite her arm debuff, the only required input is pressing the button, promising her eagle eyes will make her a god-tier sniper with that piece. Bringing up his home server lore, the soldier shares that this gear spawned legendary snipers, acting as both a tool for resistance and for seizing control. Breathing heavy and super tense, Cilia mounts the gun stock to her shoulder and asks straight up how to operate the machine. She closes one of her eyes, channeling all her focus through the iron sights with hardcore concentration. Activating her elf vision buff, the girl lets him know she's trusting his word to take the shot. A massive boom echoes through the woods the second she pulls the trigger, kicking back with a heavy recoil that the soldier watches up close. The metal ammo shreds the wind at insane speed, narrowly missing a tiny beetle chilling on a plant. Without dropping its trajectory, the bullet drills perfectly through the center of the fabric piece, pinned way out there. Stoked with the result, the MC smiles big while the spy smiles, totally amazed that she can finally hit targets again. Seeing the accuracy, the dwarf blacksmith is absolutely floored by the broken skill she just showed off. With their jaws literally on the floor, the craftsman and one of the green minions watch the scene, mind blown by the elf's lethal aim. Out in the field, the warrior locks her stance gripping the rifle, super proud of her new power upgrade. Out of nowhere, the blacksmith raises his hand at the girl super fast. Hyped by the showcase, the dwarf reaches out to get the rifle back, all while holding the heavy weapon in his other hand. Flashing a gold tooth in a stoked smile, the blacksmith mimics the gunshot sound to celebrate the absolute flawless victory of his build.